Words hang in the air, her demons take the dare. Above a lonely feather circles to the ground. The house don't make a sound. Turn this car around. Turn this car around. I'm going back. Green and gray and auburn sliding down the sky. The devil winks an eye. A figure in the doorway, shouldering the blame. A saint without a name. Turn this car around. Turn this car around. I'm going back. I'm going king and queen are loaded, falling off to sleep. The ground begins to creep. Rockets in the tail lights, red burns into night, rolling out of sight. Turn this car around. Turn this car around. I'm going back. Turn this car around. Turn this car around. I'm going back.
Good afternoon, Coded Friend .001 listeners. How's everybody doing today? Good afternoon, Coded Friend .001 listeners. How's Monitors on, sounds good. We're plugged in, power's on. Should have everything going right. Tina Slay and the Shut Up and Go Away cash grab. What we've heard, Tina Slay is actually finally the Caleb Slay lawsuit has been filed. Some insight from one of our Discord users that is in the legal field has stated that there is a 3-year statute of limitations time limit on wrongful death cases. So despite the fact that, Tina, via her attorneys and a meeting back in mid-April with her attorneys, and then a subsequent interview with Ironton auditor Terry. Tina promised that a lawsuit would be filed by May of 2023, within 2 or 3 weeks. No lawsuit had been filed, nothing, no Nancy Grace primetime investigative report spectacular on Caleb's death. None of that came to pass. The lawsuit has been filed, and what we're hearing from our sources in the field, in the legal field, is that due to the 3-year time limit, that case had to be filed now, or they weren't going to be able to file a case. So despite 3 years of time and several attorneys taking the case and dropping the case, Tina Slay has finally brought a shut up and go away, money-oriented lawsuit, not for justice for Caleb, for a check for Tina. Odd. Not surprising, but odd. Radius Haddis is with us with an NTFG SFW. Radius Haddis says, will she make an appearance on the Snooze Network while she's sitting in the tub? Hopefully she does. Hopefully she continues her fucking insane look at me nonsense. And hopefully the defense attorneys bring all that out in the court case, that Tina is a shameless fucking celebrity monger. Let's face it. Chili did, despite what Tina says, Chili did accomplish what he set out to do, all except for getting justice for Caleb. There is no justice for Caleb. Caleb got his just desserts. The DEA agents were not at Caleb's house for Caleb. All Caleb had to do was what the first DEA agent instructed him to do: sit in the car. That's it. Sit in the car. Caleb had to go out and go to the fucking house. The second DEA agent asked Caleb what he was doing, where he was going. Caleb's response was aggressive. I'm going to my fucking house. You were told to sit in the car. There's an investigation going on. In the middle of an investigation with a drug dealer, you don't want people walking off, right? Because then they take the dope or whatever and they fucking hide it in the house. Then the DEA agents have to get a fucking search warrant for the house, the rest of the shit. Sit in the fucking car, keep your fucking mouth shut. You're high on meth. Caleb at the time was high on meth. The autopsy report is 100% conclusive. Despite the lies that Tina initially made up long before our little corner of YouTube knew who Tina Slay was, Tina Slay was out on YouTube selling lies. Let me see if I got one of those little lies here for you to see. This is Care of Rights On. It's a cell phone clip. I do have a better copy of it, which I'll incorporate into another broadcast. All right, so I got this. Let's see if I can share this video file. I know what to do with it there. Hold on. Give me just a second to coordinate this so I can find it easier on my desktop. McAddix is here, says, greetings. Yes, even you, Hank, NTFG. Thanks for welcoming Hank into the room. I did correct the spelling. It's Spahank. There's a small SP before the capital H. Spahank. That's why it's Spahank's channel is called Spahank's Corner. Hank hangs out in the spank corner. Do. Oh, wait, is that the right one? There we go. That should, yep, there it is. All right, let me bring this up. This is from the summer of 2022. This is an interview Tina did with some conspiracy theory guy on YouTube. I get that video file up, and that would be desktop 11.2. Here we go.
Justified, like probably.
I have a feeling he was injected with drugs, which is why Gasparoni left the scene so.
She has a feeling he was injected with drugs. This would be after they shot and killed him. Let me just roll that back to the beginning. It's a very short clip. So initially she says she has a feeling. He reiterates that Tina thinks that the DEA agent shot her son up with methamphetamine after they shot him multiple times in the head. So Tina first says that, you know, she's suspicious of it. Then she clearly states that she believes that the statement that the DEA agent shot up her son with drugs is true.
They're just hoping he's on drugs to justify it, like probably.
I have a feeling he was injected with drugs, which is why Gasparoni left the scene so fast.
Oh, he's injected with drugs, you think?
That I do believe so, because the toxicology report shows so much meth in my son's system.
Meth, yeah, that's weird too.
The level of meth. So first she says it's a feeling. Then she says it's true that the DEA agents shot her son full of methamphetamine after they shot him in the head with bullets. Tina Slay has attempted on a couple of occasions to walk back that lie. See, the problem with Tina and garnering sympathy for herself is the coroner's report conclusively shows that Tina's son was high on methamphetamine when the altercation with the DEA agents happened. It's not such a large amount as Tina says here, you know, like it was crazy high. The amount of methamphetamine that was found in Caleb Slay's blood system or in his tissue samples, combination of each, whatever, was reported by the sheriff who Tina pressed to look into the case. That kind of backfired for you, huh, Tina? And all the shit talking and SovCit fucking crap you put the sheriff through. The sheriff noted in a footnote in his report to the prosecutor's office that the autopsy, see, it wasn't a footnote in the autopsy like Dan fucking lied about at Welsh News Network. It was a footnote in the report of the sheriff that Tina pressed to look into the case. Caleb Slay had an amount of methamphetamine in his system that wasn't unusually high. The amount of meth that Caleb had in his system was indicative of the range of meth found in the blood system of individuals who acted violently or perpetuated some type of violence. So the range of methamphetamine that was found in Caleb's system at the autopsy report was consistent with a meth user who acts irrationally and violently. It's going to be a difficult one to get around in the fucking court case. It's going to be a difficult one. That's why this case was filed at the fucking last minute. I mean, they held on to this as long as they could before filing it. Now, if the defense or the plaintiffs had Tina Slay and her lawyers, which Tina's had multiple lawyers over the last 3 years until she, finally hired some celebrity clown show out of California that we're now finding out isn't qualified to practice law in Missouri. So they had to engage a third firm to try the case. Jesus Christ, Tina. This is the reason, Tina, why the law firm you initially engaged on this round of attempting to get a lawsuit in did nothing. They shot a fucking advertisement. They shot a commercial. Not really about Caleb, but about the attorney. He was promoting himself. Did he tell you, Tina, that he wasn't able to practice law in Missouri when you hired him? Did he even tell you that? So, Caleb Slay was high on meth. There's no getting around that. Caleb Slay was high on meth when he got into a physical altercation with DEA agents while armed. He had a pistol on him. To the kids out there listening, drugs and guns, they just don't fucking go together. Tina, if your son had not been shot and killed, he'd be in fucking jail right now. You understand that? Tina, if your son had not been shot and killed, he'd be in fucking jail right now. When you combine drug use and there is a weapon at the ready on your hip, when you're using drugs and there's a weapon there, when there's a drug deal going down and there's a weapon there, that escalates everything to felony charges. Boom, instantly, felony charges. Drugs, guns equal felony charges. So all Caleb had to do was sit in a fucking car, like the first DEA agent told him. They weren't there for Caleb. They didn't know who Caleb was. They didn't give a shit about Caleb. All Caleb had to do was sit in the fucking car and keep his mouth shut. And if he was a smart dude, while he was sitting in the car, he would have gotten the pistol off him and locked it in the glove box of the car. Then informed the police that there's a pistol on the scene and it's locked in the glove box. Things would have gone way fucking better for Caleb than if he, on meth, disobeyed a lawful order from a officer of the law, a DEA agent who was conducting an investigation on, I believe the gentleman's name was Casey Ray, the driver of the U-Haul truck. They had earlier observed him doing a drug deal and they followed him. He pulled up and stopped in front of Caleb Slay's home, where Caleb Slay and another individual were working on Caleb's car, installing a car stereo or something like that. The drug dealer was not there to see Caleb. He was there to see the dude that was in the car with Caleb. So, the DEA agents contained them all. I mean, Tina's always bitching about corruption and the rest of the shit. Your son didn't behave in a civil fashion, right? The DEA agents acted according to, they've been cleared, they've been investigated and cleared of all wrongdoing. Tina claims there were witnesses there that were never interviewed. Who are they, Tina? Why weren't they interviewed? You're going to have a real tough time with 3-year-old witness testimony that's not included in the police investigation. Why did those witnesses, why are those witnesses now coming forward in a civil, Tina's filed the civil lawsuit. Tina's filed a civil suit. The only thing that comes at the end of the civil suit is cash payment. Tina's doing this for the money, not for justice for Caleb. Tina's doing this to get a fucking shut up and go away check. Because Tina ain't going to win this one. And if Tina doesn't run it out to the end, if Tina takes a fucking cash payment to go away, then the whole world will fucking know at that point that Tina was just in this for a fucking check. And it had nothing to do with getting justice for her son. Another source of ours, who I trust very well. He's I've been talking with him for several months, half a year or more now, and he's never been dishonest or deceitful in anything while dealing with me. He says that the black woman, the African-American woman that Tina was initially teamed up with or, co-working with, Tina was trying to attach the death of her son, Caleb, to the death of black youths, black individuals, males in the same age range dealing with police. So this black woman had a son who was beaten to death by the police. And Tina's initial story was to attach herself to this woman and this woman's plight. And she started saying that initially Tina was saying that Caleb had dirt on the Springfield, Missouri police, and he was killed to prevent exposure. All Tina did was, it's not surprising Tina's over at the Welsh News Network because she's like-minded with the Welsh News Network. Tina took someone else's tragedy, adopted it into her own tragedy, literally took the woman's story and took the woman's son out and put Caleb in place. Caleb didn't have any fucking dirt on corrupt cops. That's all shit that Tina made up. What Caleb had was methamphetamine in the system and a pistol on his hip when he encountered DEA agents. Caleb got aggressive with those DEA agents, and Caleb wound up getting himself shot. Wrongful death? No, not at all. Not at all. The story's tragic. The story sounds horrible. He was seconds from a hospital right around the corner, but no medical attention was given to him. He was twice at close range in the back of the fucking head. There's no medical attention that can do anything to help him. Tina wasn't there. Tina didn't see it. I mean, if half the back of your fucking head is no longer existent, there's nothing that can be done. All you're going to do is waste resources and prolong agony. But Tina can't accept that because Tina's son wasn't a fucking meth user. Tina's son wasn't 25 years old and changing his major in college to quote unquote be a criminal justice major so that Caleb, delusions of grandeur, mommy, delusions of grandeur, Caleb was going to become a police officer after he graduated in his late 20s. It's a fucking long time to be at school. So Caleb was going to change majors, go back, get a criminal justice, and Caleb was going to enter the Springfield, Missouri police force, and Caleb was going to Serpico style single-handedly clean up the dirty cops. You see the attitude that Caleb got from his SovCit mommy? It's fucking sad. It's sad, Tina, that your son's entire fucking life was wasted because all he had achieved up to the age of 25 was he was a security guard at a club, which is probably where he picked up his methamphetamine addiction. It's just a shame that your son had to pick up your shitty attitude, your shitty fucking SovCit attitude, Tina. or the police are bad, everything's corrupt, blah, 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 blah. All the fucking shit that every run-of-the-mill fucking douchebag shoves off all responsibility for falling short in life and blames it on the usual set. If you draw your little Venn diagram, it's the set titled Them/They. Nobody knows who they are. It's a vaporous little set, but they get to blame the them, they. You know who they are, them, those guys, the ones who take your rights away. The invisible ones that they slip away under a fucking squid cloud of ink. Nobody can ever find them. It's the they, thems that are fucking everyone over and keeping Tub Time with Tina from becoming a huge winning sitcom on TV. It's all someone else's fault. It's not Tina's fault that she allowed her shitty attitude toward authority to be adopted by her drug-using son. That's not Tina's fault. That's not Tina's fault. It's not Tina's fault that Tina can't rewrite the narrative and get everyone to bite on a false fucking story, despite tons of fucking help from the Welsh News Simp Squad and the head clown in chief, Danny Boy. The pervert. The pervert. The whole, that perversion shit, it manifests sexually. It's easy to see sexually. Like you can see Dan's perversion the minute you realize Dan likes to wear stiletto heels and miniskirts and buff British soldier boots while giving them oral treats. That perversion becomes, when you externalize it, it starts to envelop your entire life. Tina's just as perverted. Her Tub Time cameo appearances on the Welsh News Network, her hatred of authority, her inability to cajole a retired Missouri state senator who apparently was friends of the family but didn't want to have shit to do with Tina. And because Tina's a fucking stark, raving lunatic. So this retired senator, friend of the family, didn't want to have shit to do with Tina's case, Caleb's case, because it's so fucking obvious that Caleb was in the wrong. But that doesn't register for Tina. For Tina and her SovCit mentality, that's a clear indicator. A retired senator that won't go to bat for Tina and help perpetuate Tina's lies, including the DEA shot her son full of methamphetamine after they put 2 bullets in the back of his head. I'm sure the average person listening to me can fully understand why a retired senator would not go anywhere near that fucking shit. He's retired. He served the public. His career is over. Why would he cap it at the end with defending a fucking lunatic liar who just can't accept the fact that her shitty attitude and her son's methamphetamine use is what got her son fucking killed? Get ready to take a big bow, Tina, because if you lose that fucking case... Purple Butterflies in the chat says, oh boy. Diarmid Costello is here, says, hello, good people and truth seekers. McAddick says, a flood alert was just issued for Springfield, Missouri. Tina must be over at the WN and again. Tub Time with Tina, folks. Be looking forward to some Tub Time with Tina tonight on the Welsh News Network, because Dan will milk this for all he fucking can. So let's remember, as we hear the boo-hoo-hooery of Tina Slay in the coming days, that Tina Slay's son, Caleb, was high on methamphetamine, confirmed by coroner's report. And Tina has been in denial of that and made up lie after lie after lie, including accusing 2 DEA agents of being in possession of methamphetamine and a hypodermic needle and shooting up Caleb with said stuff after they put a bullet in the back of his brain pan. John Clark says, is it Shower Thursday with Tina? Tina can't use the shower because all the water bounces off her big body and winds up out on the floor. It's safer to fill the tub and then just have it spill over. Dermot Costello says golden shower. Dermot, you don't usually talk like that. Dermot Costello says, please no Tina jokes or I will not be able to stop. Well, we're fucking in now, Dermot. Don't stop. Welsh News Now says, but, those needles were Chili's. Yeah, here's the other thing, too. Let me jump back a little bit. Renee Goodwin was the name of the individual that Tina tried to attach her wagon to, clout chasing. Renee Goodwin's story is a pretty fucking sad story. Caleb Slay's story is a pretty fucking sad story too. Given my preferences, if I could roll back time, I'd rather see Caleb Slay have gotten wrestled to the ground, disarmed, arrested, and be sitting in jail today rather than dead. Now, Tina losing her son is a tragic event, no doubt about it. And we feel sorry for the loss that Tina suffered, but that doesn't in any way justify running around creating fucking lie after lie after lie for 3 fucking years, Tina. 3 fucking years. Well, it's over now. We're going to get discovery. We're going to see what's going on. All this shit is going to be public now. We'll see about your fucking missing witnesses that were never interviewed. We'll see how the court cottons to their horse shit. If they're witnesses and they didn't come forward to talk to the police, the local police, not federal guys investigating, the local police, give a statement, say what you saw. Not 3 fucking years later, dragged into court and forced to fucking tell your fucking lie because you told Tina a lie to comfort her. We get it. We get it. You told Tina a lie to comfort her. But see, this is the problem with that shit. You created false hope. You empowered her delusion and you gave her something to hold on other than the fucking truth. Rebel at Heart says, I think she had her hair done for her guest appearance tonight. She's going to be in the tub. Why would you get your fucking hair done? Rebel says she hired a mason to put her makeup on, I'm sure. Travel time with Tina. Welsh News Network says, I'll be back later. I have to go cash my welfare check. Is it that time of the month again? Jesse VR says, does Dan's castle have yellow walls and a blue door? Dude, did you get the same photo I got? Are you talking to those fucking people over in Britain? I got a report that Dan's house has a yellow. I actually have a picture, yellow and a blue door. The door's kind of beat up. Rebel says, where's Walter? Walter has been unreliable lately, although I see he's reliably over at the Stoned Vet broadcast. Not that I'm jealous or anything, but it's fucking Walter. Stoned Vet stole my Walter. Damn it. We are now accepting applications for a new Walter, Texas. McAddick says, WNN, did Kevin take his credit card back? He'll pick it up the next time he's around for a little bit of the fucking stiletto miniskirt action from Danny Boy. Rumor is Kevin is a mid-ranking naval officer and loves an oral treat while getting his boot shined. Scotto says, hey to everyone. McAddick's hi to Scotto. Dermot Costello says, FYE. Everyone. FYE very one. I think Dearmid may have hit the bottle early today. Drink all you want, Dearmid. I don't fucking care. I don't care how much anyone drinks. I don't give a shit. I just think, when people know what's healthy, unhealthy, they can then at that point make an adjustment. If drinking's keeping you from going out and murdering half your neighborhood, feel free to fucking drink all day. It's what fucking Wrangler should be doing. Chili D Con Artist says Tina got paid. Tina did not get paid. Tina has entered a lawsuit either yesterday or early today to seek a big fat check from the federal government, your tax money and my tax money, for the wrongful death of her high on meth, armed with a gun son who, spoke aggressively to DEA agents and then got in a physical altercation with them and wound up getting, Dearmid Costello says Scotto loved that. Scotto loved The Last Supper, my man. Scotto says, thanks, Dearmid. That was a fun one to make. Did I miss a meme? God damn it. Scotto's got some killer fucking memes. McAddick says, not yet. She filed her new lull suit. Another lull suit. And, nobody would know about Tina Slay if it wasn't for Chili DeCastro. No one would know about Tina Slay if it wasn't for Chili DeCastro. Tina's African-American housewife friend who lost her son, who Tina then started to adopt that woman's story and make it about Caleb. That's pretty fucking disgusting. Claiming that Caleb had dirt on the Springfield, Missouri Police Department and was going to expose them. That was part of the motivation for the DEA assassinating, according to Tina, murdering her son. Tina, if your son was murdered because he had, according to you, murdered because he had dirt on the Springfield, Missouri Police Department, that would be an assassination. Murder has to include an intent to kill. Logan, thanks for sending me your readers, but they're not working well, dude. Dearmid Costello says Moby Dick, Kimmy Cat, and Captain Ahab riding her back. Wrangler. Kimmy Whale Wrangler. It turns out Wrangler Dangler is just a fucking sardine, and Kimmy's now out after Captain Ahab, looking for the Moby Dick. Scotto on it. Chili. Oh my God, are you gonna fucking meme that? That's hilarious. Chili D Con Artist says, okay, just read the article. I didn't know 9-year-olds watched the local news. All right, if you're reading the article, let's get into that little bad boy right here. This is the article announcing the lawsuit filed by Tina Slay. Let me get that out of there. Get this up biggie big. I think that's as big as I'm going to be able to get it. So I believe this is by Ben Gilbert and Carissa Codell. It's supposed to be coded. That's my cousin, Clarissa. Posted November 1, 2023 at 2:30 p.m. Central Daylight Time. Updated November 2, 2023. So the lawsuit was filed on probably on the 1st or a day or two before, because Tina's running out. The clock is ticking. Wrongful death has a 3-year statute of limitations, so the suit had to be filed or it was going to be unfileable. Hello to Tina Slay if you're in the chat, there, big fatty. Springfield, Missouri, the mother of Caleb Slay, a 25-year-old man. Remember, all the emphasis on Caleb Slay was that, he was a child, he was 25 years old. The mother of Caleb Slay, a 25-year-old man shot and killed by Drug Enforcement Administration DEA agents in the front yard of his Springfield home, has filed a lawsuit. If you click the has filed a lawsuit tab, you will open a PDF with the actual lawsuit in it. If you want to read that, we'll probably get into a little bit of the reading of the lawsuit before this live ends. Tina Slay quoted saying, Caleb, he was unjustly shot and unjustly murdered, said Caleb's mother, Tina Slay. Quote, murder is murder, whether you wear a badge or not. And a lie is a lie, whether you're a grieving mother or not. 3 years, you're still fucking grieving. Filing a fucking lawsuit for cash, yeah, that'll really help end the grieving process. Tina, it seems like you're doing everything in your power to remain known as a victim and to delay closure of this event so that you can get past the grieving stage and focus on the alive daughter you have and her rearing. The living daughter that you left alone in a room with Chili while Chili made a poster board display for Caleb's Justice for Caleb party. And the whole video, it's just Chili and your daughter, and then you fucking waddle in at the end. Jesus Christ, you are fucking huge. Tina must be dealing with her grief by using a fork and a spoon. Tina waddles in. Oh, that's great, Chili. That's great. Chili's such a degenerate, drug-using, fucked up individual that you left your daughter with him for half a fucking day. Come on, Tina. What are you going to do if Chili has to show up in court and testify? I mean, the defense would be stupid not to fucking get a hold of Chili. All the shit you've lied about, and like if they go to Chili and show all the shit you've said about Chili and backtracked and reworded and all the fucking your word won't mean shit in a fucking courtroom to a jury, because you're flip-flop back and forth, telling lies, correcting lies, reasserting lies you corrected. You're blaming Chili for needles that were found in Caleb's room. When Caleb was killed, there was methamphetamine in his system, a high level of it, not an alarmingly or unheard of high level. It was a high enough level that put him in the category of meth users that act violently, predictably act violently at that level of the drug in their system. It wasn't a huge high amount. In fact, it was about right, the amount for a regular user of methamphetamine. It wasn't first-time user. It wasn't accidental overdose levels. It was about the right level for a chronic fucking user. Your son's going to school during the day and he's working security at a club overnight. It's a recipe. 1 + 1 =, hey, try this white powdery stuff. It'll keep you awake. It's like 100 cups of coffee. Boom, Caleb's using fucking meth. That's where the meth use started, at the fucking club he was working at, Tina, where you think he was some kind of big shot head of security. He was 25 years old when he died, Tina. You said he had the job for 7 or 8 years. There's no fucking 17, 18-year-old kid who's the head of fucking security at a club. It never, ever has fucking happened. Never. What idiot would hire a 17-year-old as head of security? You 17-year-olds don't even get hired to be security. Fucking idiot. Your story's so full of shit, Tina. It's fucking amazing. The civil lawsuit, what opens if you open? Oh, that goes to the PDF also for the lawsuit. The civil lawsuit is seeking compensatory and punitive damages. That's money. Compensation. Punitive is the multiplier. This is about money. This isn't about justice for Caleb. This is about fucking money. This is about Tina gets a fucking payday. Tina gets a payday. Guarantee if she won and got a fucking paycheck, if she won and got a paycheck, $100,000 or more, she probably winds up getting divorced from her current husband. Guaranteed. Tina wants to hobnob with the celebrity, rich and famous, and all that's holding her back is her general ugliness and the lack of money. The lawsuit states that Caleb Slay complied with agents' demands. No, he did not. He was told to sit in the fucking car. He got out of the car, walked toward the fucking house. The first agent told him to sit in the car. Caleb went back and sat in the fucking car. The agent wasn't there for Caleb. He didn't give a shit about Caleb. The second agent arrived on the scene while Caleb was getting out of the car and walking toward his house. That's not complying with the fucking DEA agents. That's just a straight up bold-faced fucking lie. It's in the fucking police report. Caleb got out of the car, was walking toward his house. The second DEA agent on the scene asked Caleb what he was doing. Caleb's response, the first DEA agent told the second DEA agent, I told dude to sit in the car. Second DEA agent says to Caleb, what are you doing? Where are you going? Caleb responds, I'm going in my fucking house. That's not compliant. The lawsuit states that Caleb Slay complied with agents' demands and was shot in the head several times from close range, and no life-saving measures were taken by the sergeant from the Springfield Police Department. Half your head's blown off. No life-saving shit was done because if the dude was in the fucking hospital, there's nothing. You can't put a brain back together. Humpty Dumpty. Quote, I'm very much looking forward to all of the evidence of the witnesses coming forward, hearing their story, and getting the truth, end quote, Slay said. You're looking forward to hearing the fucking truth 3 years later after you've ignored every fucking truth that came along and made up lies to counter shit? Like the DEA agent shot up your son with meth after they put 2 bullets in the back of his head, like your little conspiratorial fucking explain away at the Welsh News Network where, well, Caleb apparently was using a lot of drugs, Sudafed, methamphetamine, cough syrup. You came up with all these fucking excuses why Caleb would test positive for methamphetamine. But none of them are working excuses for a coroner's office test. They're all excuses for a dip in urine fucking test strip, which isn't crazy accurate. They're indicative of substances, but their accuracy level is fucking low. You get all kinds of false positive hits. That's why if you're getting drug tested at work and you're on Ritalin, you need to tell the fucking testing agency, hey man, I have a prescription for Ritalin. It's different with a coroner's fucking gas spectrographic report. Not only did Caleb test positive for methamphetamine, but the parts per million measure is within the banded range of violent action by a meth user. Not only did he test positive, he tested accurately positive for methamphetamine and violent behavior. When the truth all comes out, Tina, your son's going to look like a piece of shit, and so are you, because you've told a lot of fucking lies. And quite a few of those fucking lies were your attempt to get celebrity by yourself. You discovered quickly when Kate had her altercation with Chili. You discovered shortly after that if you shit talked Chili, you would be a celebrity. And that was the motivation for shit talking Chili. You getting attention. All that's going to come back to fucking haunt you now. Leaving your daughter with Chili. If Chili's such a bad person, why'd you leave your fucking daughter with him for half a day? You're not much of a mother. You're not much of a mother. You're saying Chili was walking around naked in front of your daughter or only with a towel on, but you left your daughter with him for half a fucking day while he made promotional material for your son's protest march. The things you say, Tina, and the things you do don't fucking line up too well, and that's really going to come out in court. There's a link here for Mother Shares death certificate of Springfield man shot killed by DEA agents. That is from January 13th. This shit all happened in 2021. Wow. I'll read that in a minute. On November 2, 2020, a search warrant filed. Oh, what the fuck? 2021. Mother Shares. 20. That was 2020, right? Yeah. So the death of Caleb Slay happened on November 2, 2020. So this lawsuit was literally filed the day before time ran out for a wrongful death lawsuit. Tina had to do it yesterday or she wouldn't have been able to do it at all. But Tina promised, after meeting with her lawyers back in April, she made a promise on Ironton auditor Terry, her husband, Tina's husband, was present with her, that a lawsuit would be filed by May 1st at the very latest. Tina guaranteed it. Here, the day before it becomes impossible to file a wrongful death lawsuit, Tina's crack fucking celebrity attorney squad squeaked it in under the fucking wire. What were you waiting so fucking long for? More evidence? Or were you waiting for that sensationalist Nancy Grace piece to come out before you filed, which still hasn't fucking come out? On November 2, 2020, a search warrant filed by Springfield Police Department stated the DEA agents witnessed a man named Casey Ray, that's the driver of the U-Haul, engage in the sale of drugs. He was eventually pulled over in a U-Haul truck in the 1800 block of South Maryland Avenue. The warrant states that agents pulled the truck over near the home of Caleb Slay. Slay was already sitting in front of his home in a car. As he got out and walked toward his door, agents approached and an altercation ensued, and Caleb was then shot. Wow, that's a fucking highly inaccurate summary. According to Tina's own story and the police report, the DEA agents were following Casey Ray. They were tailing him, alternating the car following. So Casey Ray made a turn. The follow car continued straight. The second vehicle made the turn and picked up the tail. You know, they don't want Casey Ray to know they're following him. So they alternated two cars to, you know, keep it from looking like there was somebody behind him making every turn he made. So the second DEA agent was behind the first DEA agent. He had to go down, do a turnaround, come back. The first DEA agent had already exited his vehicle, instructed everyone to remain where they were, told Caleb to stay in the car. Then the second DEA agent arrived. At that point in time, Caleb was getting out of the car, walking toward the house. The first DEA agent alerted the second DEA agent that he had instructed that individual, Caleb Slay, to remain in his vehicle. The second DEA agent asked Caleb what he was doing. Caleb's response, "I'm going in my fucking house." The officer called him back to get in the vehicle. As Caleb was coming back, the officer asked him if he was armed. Caleb said he was armed. The officer took Caleb by the wrist. Caleb resisted, pulled away. Struggle ensued. Mr. Gasparoni, Agent Gasparoni, shot Caleb Slay because he was standing over his partner who was on the ground. Caleb Slay is a 25-year-old young adult who was a football player in high school, couldn't make the cut for football in college, but continued on as a member of the cheer squad. So he was physically fit. He was in good shape. He got the better of the DEA agent, who wound up on the ground on his back. Caleb was standing over him, twice motioned like he was going to pull his pistol from his hip. Agent Gasparoni acted. I mean, stay in the fucking car. None of that shit would have happened. That warrant states that agents pulled the truck over. They didn't pull the truck over. This is really shitty reporting. The truck was already pulled over when the agent got there. Slay was already sitting in front of his home in a car. So they're actually parked on the street in front of Caleb's home in a car, and a drug dealer that the DEA agents are tailing pulled up right in front of them. Subsequently, the driver of the U-Haul informed the DEA agents that he was there to meet with the passenger that was in Caleb's car. You don't get to just say, "Hey, fuck you, I'm not part of this," and walk away. Especially when you're high on meth and you have a pistol on your fucking head. This is not an accurate report at all, the news report. Slay was already sitting in front of his home in a car as he got out and walked toward his door. Agents approached. No, Caleb had already, according to the police report, been instructed to stay in the car. Casey Ray didn't refute any of this. The dude that Caleb was with didn't refute any of this. Slay was already sitting in front of his home in a car as he got out and walked toward his door. Agents approached, an altercation ensued, and Caleb was then shot. That's not really accurate. Prosecutors say Caleb was armed, resisting, and toxicology results from the autopsy show that Slay had methamphetamine in his system at the time. Hence the multitude of lies Tina Slay has had to make up about how the meth got in her son's system. Tina, it's really coincidental that your son, a meth user, had a meth dealer pull up in front of his house. It was a complete coincidence. Totally coincidence. Coincidental also that while this methamphetamine dealer pulled up in front of Caleb Slay's house to see the guy that Caleb Slay is hanging around with, Caleb Slay also happens at that time in the middle of the day working on a car stereo to be high on methamphetamine. But Tina Slay does not believe, but Tina Slay does not believe her son should have been shot by DEA agents, by agents. Well, Tina believes that. That's why you have Tina filing at the last possible moment a wrongful death lawsuit in order to grab a shut up and go away check. Because Tina believes something. Tina believes something despite the amount of overwhelming fucking evidence. Tina believes something other than her son had a meth dealer parked in front of his car, in front of his house, while he was working on a car stereo with a friend who was happened to meeting up with the drug dealer at Caleb's house. While just wildly coincidentally, Caleb happens to be high on methamphetamine. This is, if you were going to write a recipe for fucking disaster, this would be one of them. Tina says, quote, if you carry a gun and you do everything that you're supposed to do, you should not end up dead, Slay said. I agree with that statement 100%. If you carry a gun and you do everything you're supposed to do, you should not wind up dead. But if you carry a gun while high on methamphetamine with a meth dealer meeting you in front of your house or meeting your friend in front of your house, and there's 3 meth men and 2 DEA agents, if I was the DEA agent, I'd be super fucking cautious. I would be on the fucking ready for chicanery and bullshit because we got 3 meth heads here. Jesus fucking Christ, Tina, you live in a delusion. You live in an absolute delusion. Holy shit, you live in a fucking delusion. And then you have people like Welsh News Network Dan who are ready to help perpetuate, protect, and develop your delusional beliefs. Your son wasn't on meth, Tina, despite a coroner's report. It had to be the Sudafed he was taking. It had to be the cough syrup he was taking. It couldn't be that he was on meth in his front yard with a meth dealer in a truck pulling up and another meth head friend in the passenger seat of the car Caleb was in, while meth dealer drives up to meet meth friend while you're high on meth. Holy fucking shit. This is a Wrangler-esque delusion. Great point, Purple Butterfly. If Caleb was going to be a police officer, if he had this intent of being a police officer, shouldn't he be one of the first ones to cooperate with the police orders? Yeah. In fact, Caleb's the only one that didn't fucking cooperate. That's why Caleb got shot. The other 2 guys made it out unscathed. No lawsuits, no wrongful death, no traumatization by my I mean, Casey Ray's got a stronger fucking case than Tina does. Casey Ray's customer was shot in front of him. That'll fuck up your business plan. That'll fuck up your business plan and traumatize the fuck out of you. Logan Sandman, dirty boy. Logan Sandman says at Welsh News Now, oh shit, I need readers. I read that as face setting. Michael Kaiser, veteran warrior and hero, says, will Merb be reading the lawsuit on his channel? I will give him a view, and I will also tell my cult members to watch it too. Okay. Legitimate Logan says, true that. Dermot Costello says, Tina dropped her phone in the bath. It's sinking. Holy fuck, that was unexpected, Dermot. Very nice. I like that one. Welsh News Now says, Tina loves my new purple thong. Nancy Marie says, at Dermot Costello, it's cold and raining where I'm at too, but I love the fall weather. That didn't have anything to do with this. Dermot Costello says she had a coffee bath. It was La Tubracino? Latubacino. My God. Logan Sandman in the real-time chat says, coughing says you're lying. Yeah, well, this isn't a lie. I've had the worst fucking sinus shit since like July. McAddick says, fall skipped us this year. It did kind of fucking get cold really fast. Team Bandit says, oh, geez, that's terrible. Jam and Jet says, when he was in Scotland, they had 2 seasons, winter and 4th of July. Misty Eyed Girl says, at Jam and Jet, summer fell on a weekend. You get this chat caught up here. We'll move on. All right, mother. Gotta share this. Let me get my share going on. Share screen. This is local news, ozarkfirst.com. This was posted on January 13th of 2021 and was updated on later that day. Springfield, Missouri, the mother of Caleb Slay, the 25-year-old man shot and killed by Drug Enforcement Administration DEA agents in the front yard of his Springfield home, posted Caleb's death certificate on Wednesday, January 13. On Monday, November 2, a search warrant filed by Springfield Police Department states that DEA agents witnessed a man named Casey Ray engage in the sale of drugs. He was eventually pulled over in a U-Haul truck in the 1800 block of South Maryland Ave. That warrant states the agents pulled the truck over near the home of Caleb Slay. Slay was already sitting in front of his home in a car as he got out and walked toward his door. Agents approached, an altercation ensued. Caleb was then shot. Over 2 months later, his mother, Tina Slay Richardson, is steadfast in her belief that her son's death was unnecessary. Well, he was standing over a police officer who he got in a physical altercation, standing over him, and twice made a motion toward his hip like he was going to pull his pistol. You're right. It was unnecessary that Caleb got shot. And if Caleb, studying criminal justice with the intent to become a police officer, had just done what the DEA agent instructed him to do, Caleb would be alive today. Sit in the fucking car. Caleb was not the danger, and Caleb was not the subject of why they were even there. Correct statement. Although Caleb became a danger because he failed to comply with police officers, was hot with DEA agents, was high on methamphetamine, got verbally aggressive, and then got into a physical altercation with the police, with the DEA agents, because he refused to follow a simple order: sit in the car, stay still. Caleb was not the danger, and Caleb was not the subject of why they were even there, said Richardson. It was the guy driving the U-Haul truck. That is who they were after. That's who they were following. Yeah, they were following him while he was making drug deals. You get it, Tina? Caleb is part of it because they're following this guy while he was making drug deals, and he rolled up to your son's house where your son and his friend, the guy who the drug dealer was there to meet with, were outside, and your son Caleb failed to follow simple instructions: sit in the car. On January 13, they, Tina Slay and whoever else, went and picked up his death certificate. It labels his death as a homicide and tells where he was shot. That's how it should be. When I try to tell people that he was executed, nobody wants to listen to me because he wasn't fucking executed. The fact that nobody wants to listen to your story, Tina, should indicate to you that the story you're telling isn't believable. The DEA did not execute your fucking son. Your son got shot because he was on methamphetamine, armed with a pistol, and got into a physical altercation with DEA agents. And when Caleb had physically gotten the better of the DEA agent, and the DEA agent was on the ground, and Caleb stood over him and motioned twice like he was going to pull his pistol, the other DEA agent acted in a fashion to preserve the life of his partner. Completely understandable. Your son was high on methamphetamine, Tina, and was hanging out with a friend who was meeting with a methamphetamine dealer. You're a meth user. It's not shocking that a meth dealer showed up to your meth user son's house. It's not shocking to find out that your son's friends were meth users with meth dealer contacts also. It's your story, Tina. That's the fucking crazy story. When I try to tell people that he was executed, nobody wants to listen to me, said Richardson. Quote, on the bottom of his death certificate, which I've posted online, it shows that Caleb died from gunshot wounds to his head. Okay. Should we be extra sympathetic toward Tina because she raised the SovCit anti-authority meth user? Wake the fuck up, Tina. That's why no one wants to hear your fucking story. Do you know what, Tina? No one wants to hear your story. You're talking to local news. You're talking about the local community. Nobody wants to know it because they know you're a fucking lunatic to begin with. Now the Springfield Police Department is left to investigate the death at the DEA's hands, a much larger federal agency. Quote, we're 2 months later and this is still not closed, said Richardson. They've not reached out to the family. They've not told us any progress. They've not told us, and it's an active investigation. They're not going to fucking tell you anything, Tina. There should be an arrest, and there should be accountability to the person who pulled that trigger and put gunshot wounds in my son's head. He didn't put gunshot wounds in your son's head, Tina. He killed him fucking dead. He killed him dead to preserve the life of his partner because your high on meth son got in a physical altercation with his partner and was standing over him, behaving as though he was going to pull his pistol on him. Again, to the kids out there, methamphetamine and a gun, don't do it. Don't do it. It's not good for your health. If you're going to do meth, don't carry your pistol around. If you're going to carry your pistol around, don't do fucking meth. It's pretty simple shit. Because people who do meth have a tendency to act violently and aggressively for no apparent reason at times. There was no reason for Caleb to be standoffish and aggressive with the DEA agents. They weren't there for him. They were following Casey Ray. Their interest would have been in Caleb's friend because Casey Ray was there to meet Caleb's friend. So Caleb should have just sat the fuck down and shut his fucking mouth. What good is an altercation? Let's just say that Caleb didn't get killed. Let's just say that the altercation happened. Caleb got subdued and was cuffed. He would have then been arrested. He would today be in jail for methamphetamine, drugs, and guns. Methamphetamine use and a pistol on him. Those are felony charges. In fact, if Caleb hadn't gotten aggressive with the DEA agents, Caleb would probably right around now be coming out of jail. Merry Christmas, 2023. Caleb's home. KOLR 10 has tried multiple times to get the autopsy report to perhaps get more information on Slay's death through a sunshine request. The request was denied since it is still an open investigation. That's standard shit. That's standard shit. All right, well, I should be able to, let me blow this up and see how big I can get this bad boy. There we go. All right, let's see if that works. Pop over to StreamYard. Share screen. No. Why am I not able to show this? Hold on, I've never done a PDF on screen before. Oh, there we go. I got it. My bad. Holy shit. There's a lot of pages. I don't know. Let me see how many pages this is before we commit to reading it. 32 pages. Wow. All right, let's peruse. Get rid of that. Jump back to this. Burris, Nissenbaum, Curry, and Lacey, LLP. John L. Burris. Burris, Nissenbaum, Curry, and Lacey, LLP. DeWitt M. Lacey, Esquire. Julia N. Quesada, Lena P. Andrews. Law firm of Henry Tanner, LLC. Henry W. Tanner, Jr., Esquire. Tina Richardson, individually as successor in interest to decedent Caleb Slay, is the plaintiff. United States of America, Anthony versus plaintiff Tina Richardson Slay versus United States of America, Anthony Gasparoni, individually and in his official capacity as an agent for the United States Drug Enforcement Agents Administration. John Stewart, individually in his official capacity as an agent for the United States Drug Enforcement Administration, DOES I-20 or 1-20, inclusive, individually and in their official capacity as agents for United States Drug Enforcement Administration, City of Municipality, a municipal entity, C. Nuncia, individually and in his individual capacity as Sergeant for Springfield Police Department and DOES 21-40, inclusively, individually, and in their official capacity as police officers for the Springfield Police Department. Introduction. This civil rights case arises out of the unjustified shooting and killing of Caleb Slay by Agent Anthony Gasparoni of the United States Drug Enforcement Administration on November 2, 2020. Mr. Slay was executed in front of his home. Executed in the court document. Nice. Dicks. Sensationalism. Mr. Slay was executed in front of his home in Springfield, Missouri during an unprovoked encounter with two agents of the United States Drug Enforcement Administration. It was provoked, and it was provoked by Caleb Slay. Caleb Slay was instructed. They were following a drug dealer who stopped at Caleb Slay's house. The drug dealer admitted to the officer that he was there to meet with the friend of Caleb Slay. The friend was in Caleb's car. Caleb was in Caleb's car. Keep it all together. Hold it down. Stay there. It's not unprovoked. He had a right to tell you to remain in your vehicle in case a drug transaction did happen. The officers don't want Caleb bringing the meth into his house and getting rid of the evidence. Caleb doesn't want to do that either because it could get Caleb in future trouble with the police. Really, what Caleb was trying to do was get his gun off him inside the house. He should have just fucking put it in the glove box and locked it up. Anthony Gasparoni and John Stewart, where Mr. Slay was stopped by agents, Gasparoni and Stewart, while walking up his driveway toward the front of his home. So he had been instructed to stay in the vehicle. It's not unprovoked if Caleb Slay is disobeying a lawful order. It's not unprovoked. Without issue, Mr. Slay complied with commands, stopped walking, and showed both of his hands to the agents as an act of surrender. He escalated the tone and escalated the situation by telling the police he was going to his fucking house. Maybe you should have worded it a little different. Hey, I'm going inside my house. I want to get a glass of water. Without issue, Mr. Slay complied with commands, stopped walking, and showed both hands to the agents as an act of surrender. Despite the absence of any threat, there is a threat. There is a threat. This is a potential drug deal. So there is a potential threat at the very least. Drug deals usually contain drugs, money, and in this type of meth deal, there's usually a gun present. Mr. Slay had a gun. Despite the absence of any threat to the safety of the agents or others, Mr. Slay was instructed to remain in the vehicle. It's unsafe for him to go walking off. What if he went in the house and came out with a fucking AK-47, full clip, and just started unloading on the fucking police? This is a fucking drug deal. These are DEA agents. They don't chase little fucking fellows. Mr. Slay was tasered on the neck and then shot in the head several times from close range without warning after being denied. This was refuted in the police investigation. The DEA agents don't carry tasers. There was no taser present. Wow. Access to emergency medical aid and life-saving measures by Sergeant Nuccio of the Springfield Police Department. Mr. Slay succumbed to his injuries and died in his front yard. Oh, sorry. Mr. Slay was tasered on the neck and then shot in the head several times from close range without warning after being denied access to emergency medical aid and life-saving measures by Sergeant Nuccio of the Springfield Police Department. Mr. Slay succumbed to his injuries and died in his front yard. He was shot twice in the fucking head at close range. Exactly what were the life-saving measures that were going to be applied? When parts of your fucking head are missing and your brains, there's not much that can be done to save your life. 2, defendant's conduct was heinous and intolerable. Mr. Slay never threatened the agents nor made any attempt to flee. He was armed. He was armed with a pistol. He escalated the conversational tone by, cursing, "I'm going to my fucking house." He is a danger. He's armed and he's on meth. You conveniently leave out the on meth part. Of course, I can understand why you don't want to include that your son was high on meth when he engaged these officers. And though he may have thought that everything was kosher cool and he was being cooperative, the reality is he's a fucking meth head. He's on meth and he has a gun. That's a fucking threat. Defendant's conduct was heinous and intolerable. Mr. Slay's high on methamphetamine isn't heinous and intolerable. There are actual fucking laws against it. Indicating the heinous nature of meth use is the law that, it's not legal to use meth because people who use meth tend to do fucking heinous shit. Intolerable. It's against the law. Heinous and intolerable apply to the regular daily behavior that day of Caleb Slay. It's intolerable to break the law. That's why we have law enforcement officers to enforce the law. We don't tolerate law breaking. That's part of our social fabric. Tina, your son is high on meth. This isn't a one-time thing. Your son was a regular fucking meth user. If the DEA agents were tailing Casey Ray, they probably had an idea who your fucking son was. They might not have known him by name, but they don't tend to go out one weekend and say, "Hey, I heard this guy's a drug dealer. Let's follow him around." When you have warrants and shit, it's because you were already following the fucking guy around. They had a warrant for Casey Ray. Mr. Slay never threatened the agents nor made any attempt to flee. Mr. Slay thereby posed no credible threat to the safety of any agent, officer, or other. He's cursing at them. He's high on meth and he has a handgun. You're good luck facing a fucking jury with this horse shit. Mr. Slay was compliant with commands and demonstrated an act of surrender to the agents by showing both of his hands raised out in front of his body. Okay, and then as soon as the officer touched him, he pulled away and got into a physical fucking altercation with the guy. Nevertheless, Mr. Slay was tasered and then executed. Caleb Slay was not tasered. Caleb Slay was not fucking tasered. There's no mention of it in the autopsy. There's no taser issued to the DEA agents. Good luck with that one. And then tasered and then executed, suffering multiple gunshot wounds to the head and not given immediate access to medical care. There's not much that can be done medically when you've been shot twice in the fucking head at close range with a pistol. The bullet might go in clean, which is rare, but it might go in clean. But when it comes out, whoo, there's a whole lot missing on the fucking other side. I've seen it. I have seen it. I've seen it firsthand. There are times when you're calling an ambulance, but you're not calling an ambulance to the scene of an accident or a shooting. You're not calling the ambulance to give medical aid. You're calling the ambulance to transport the fucking body. The defendant's actions were unreasonable and grossly excessive under the circumstances and in violation of Mr. Slay's constitutional rights. You keep leaving the part out where he was high on methamphetamine. Accordingly, that's going to be the answer to all of this. You say blah, blah, blah. Oh, yeah, but you left out the part that he was high on methamphetamine and armed with a gun at the time. Like, all of this is refuted and countered with the simple statement, at the time, Mr. Slay was not following lawful orders. He was high on methamphetamine and in possession of a handgun. Accordingly, this action seeks compensatory and punitive damages from defendants for flagrantly violating Mr. Slay's and Miss Richardson's rights under the United States Constitution and state law in connection with the merciless deadly force inflicted upon Mr. Slay and the loss of life he suffered therefrom. Tina's saying that her constitutional rights were violated? How were Tina's Wow, this is that's crazy talk. Accordingly, this action seeks compensatory and punitive damages from defendants for flagrantly violating Mr. Slay's and Ms. Richardson's rights under the United States Constitution. Which one of Tina's constitutional rights were violated by the DEA agents? Tina wasn't even present. Wow. Well, there you go. Tina's found a way to make herself the fucking victim. Tina's rights, Tina's constitutional rights were violated. This case is shit, dude. This case is shit. You'd be lucky if you get offered shut up and go away money. Jurisdiction and venue. This action arises under Title 42 of the United States Code 1983, Title 28 of the United States Code 2671. Jurisdiction exists pursuant to 28 USC 1331 and 1343 based on 42 USC 1983 and 28 USC 1346 B1 and questions of federal constitutional law and state law. The unlawful acts and practices alleged herein occur in the city of Spring. Well, they haven't alleged anything unlawful yet. The unlawful acts and practices alleged herein occurred in the city of Springfield, Missouri, which is within the jurisdiction of this court. This court also has supplemental jurisdiction over plaintiff's state law causes of action under 28 USC 1367. Venue is proper in this court under 28 USC 1391B and 28 USC 1402B because defendants are believed to reside in this district and all incidents, events, and occurrences giving rise to this action occurred within this district. Defendant or decedent Caleb Slay, hereinafter decedent Caleb, was an individual residing in the state of Missouri decedent Caleb died intestate. Decedent Caleb did not file any legal actions prior to his death. To the extent that this action seeks to recover damages for the violation of his rights personal to decedent Caleb. For the violation of rights personal to decedent Caleb. This action is maintained by his successor in interest, Tina Richardson. If he didn't have a will, if Caleb didn't have a will, and if Caleb, his successor in interest would be the state, I believe, not Tina. He had no will. He didn't name Tina as his successor. Yeah, that's kind of weak. Said plaintiff is the biological mother of decedent Caleb and has standing to bring this action, as decedent Caleb was unmarried and without issue at the time of his death. He had no wife. He had no children. I don't know why that automatically defaults to Tina. He was an adult without a will. That would mean the state would be the successor in interest. I could be wrong on that. Plaintiff Tina Richardson, hereinafter plaintiff or Mrs. Richardson, is and was at all times mentioned herein the biological mother of decedent Caleb. Plaintiff sues as an individual and as successor in interest to decedent Caleb. That's going to be one I think they have to prove. Defendant Anthony Gasparoni, hereinafter defendant Gasparoni, is and was at all times mentioned herein an agent for the United States Drug Enforcement Administration and is sued individually and in his official capacity. Defendant John Stewart, hereinafter defendant Stewart, is and was at all times mentioned herein an agent for the United States Drug Enforcement Administration and is sued individually and in his official capacity. Defendant C. Nuncio, herein defendant Nuncio, is and was at all times mentioned herein a sergeant for the Springfield Police Department and is sued individually and in his official capacity. Defendant United States of America, herein defendant U.S. is and was at all times mentioned herein a municipal entity organized and existing under the laws of the United States of America, and at all times mentioned herein defendant U.S. has possessed the power and authority to adopt policies and prescribe rules, regulations, and practices affecting the operation of the United States Drug Enforcement Administration and its tactics, methods, practices, customs, and usage. At all relevant times mentioned herein, defendant U.S. by and through the United States Drug Enforcement Administration is and was the employer of defendant Gasparoni, Stewart, and DOES 1 through 20 inclusive, hereinafter collectively defendant DEA agents, individually and in their official capacities as agents for the United States Drug Enforcement Administration, hereinafter DEA. 12. Plaintiff is ignorant of the true names and capacities of those defendants named herein as DOES, I guess that's DOES, 1 through 10, inclusive. Sorry, I'm not good like the frog with reading legal docs. Plaintiff will amend this complaint to allege said defendants' true names and capacities when that information becomes known to plaintiff. Plaintiff is informed and believes and thereon alleges that does 1 through 10 inclusive are legally responsible and liable for the incident, injuries, and damages hereinafter set forth, and that each of said defendants proximately caused the injuries and damages by reason of neglect, careless, deliberately indifferent, intentional, or willful misconduct, including the negligent, careless, deliberately indifferent, intentional, willful misconduct in creating and otherwise causing the incidents, conditions, and circumstances hereinafter set forth, or by reason of direct or imputed negligence or vicarious fault or breach of duty arising out of the matters herein alleged. I think, honestly, the cause of the altercation was Caleb Slay's failure to abide by a legal, lawfully given order and remain in his vehicle. It wasn't till the altercation didn't happen until Caleb Slay disobeyed the first DEA agent's office order to remain in the car. I do believe that that portion of this case by the plaintiff's attorneys has been intentionally excluded in giving the summary in the beginning, because it does indicate that the altercation between the DEA agents is a direct result of Caleb Slay's inability or unwillingness to, I say inability because he's high on meth. So he might have sat in the car for a couple minutes, got impatient, and completely forgotten that the DEA agent had instructed him to stay in the car. He's on fucking meth. So the cause, that would be a negligent, it's his negligence. He neglected to abide by the order given, lawful order given by the DEA agent. They're conducting an investigation, remain in the vehicle. The altercation starts because Caleb Slay got out of the car. When he was asked by the second DEA agent where he was going, his response is aggressive. I'm going to my fucking house. He turned around and came back because he knew they have every right to go in his fucking house and get him out of there. And there was probably more shit in the fucking house that could have got him fucked, which is why he turned and came back. He's not being compliant. He's acting in his best interest. He disobeyed the order of the officer, got out of the car, started going to the house. In my mind, and I know I'm speculating here, but leaving the vehicle and going to the house is an attempt to get rid of the fucking gun. I would say it was an attempt to get rid of gun and drugs, but there were no, the police report doesn't state drugs being found on Caleb or the passenger of the car. So if there was a transaction going to happen, the DEA agent missed it by jumping the gun and probably approaching before the transaction. He should have let the transaction go down. But the fault for the altercation between the police is clearly, if Merb is watching, clearly the result of Caleb's inability to follow a very simple order. Plaintiff will seek to amend this complaint to set forth said true names and identities of does 1 through 10, inclusive when they have been ascertained. Ooh. Tina's lawyers are using the Chili DeCastro delete laws does trick. Paragraph 13, plaintiff is ignorant of the true names and capacities of defendants does 11 through 20 inclusive, and therefore sues those defendants by such fictitious names. Plaintiff is informed and believes and thereon alleges that each defendant so named was employed by defendant United States, by and through the United States Drug Enforcement Administration, and at the time of the conduct alleged therein. Plaintiff alleges that each of defendants Does 11 through 20 were responsible for the training, supervision, and or conduct of the officers and or agents involved in the conduct alleged herein. Plaintiff alleges that each of the defendants Does 11 through 20 were also responsible for and caused the acts and injuries alleged herein. So, I mean, this would indicate that Tina's suing some 20 different known and unknown individuals and blaming all of them for the fact that Caleb didn't comply with a simple order: sit in the car, stay in the car. The altercation happens after Caleb refuses to comply with a very simple lawful order: sit in the car. And Tina wants to blame 20 other fucking people for a shitty decision her on meth, armed with a gun son made. This ain't going far. This isn't even worded in a way where you can get shut up and fucking go away money. I would try this fucking case. Plaintiff will amend this complaint to state the names and capacities of Does 11 through 20, inclusive, when they have been ascertained. So literally, Tina is just making up people to sue now. 14, defendant City of Springfield, hereinafter defendant City, is and was at all times mentioned herein a municipal entity or political subdivision of the United States, organized and existing under the laws of the state of Missouri, and at all times mentioned herein, defendant City has possessed the power and authority to adopt policies and prescribe rules, regulations, and practices affecting the operation of the City of Springfield Police Department, and its tactics, methods, practice, customs, and usage. At all relevant times mentioned herein, defendant City is and was the employer of defendants Nuncio and Does 21 through 40. Holy fuck, Tina will not be outdone. It's starting to feel like there'll be 50 Does in this before it's over, just like chili. Wow. And Does 21 through 40, inclusive, hereinafter, collectively defendant officers, individually and in their official capacities as police officers for the City of Springfield Police Department. Plaintiff, 15, plaintiff is ignorant of the true names and capacities of those defendants named herein as Does 21 through 30, inclusive. Plaintiff will amend this complaint to allege said defendants' true names and capacities when that information becomes known to plaintiff. Plaintiff is informed and believes and thereon alleges that Does 21 through 30 inclusive are legally responsible, and people Tina made up, she's asserting that they're legally responsible, are legally responsible and liable for the incident, injuries, and damages hereinafter set forth, and that each of said defendants proximately caused the injuries and damages by reasons of neglect. Didn't Caleb neglect to follow a lawful order? Careless. Wasn't Caleb careless in his neglect of the officer's reasonable lawful order to remain in the vehicle? Deliberately indifferent, intentional, or willful misconduct. That's what Tina's accusing everyone of what Caleb is guilty is. How often do we see this? Including the negligent, careless, deliberately indifferent, intentional, willful misconduct in creating and otherwise causing the incidents conditions and circumstances hereinafter set forth, or by reason of direct or imputed negligence or vicarious fault or breach of duty arising out of the matters herein alleged. Plaintiff will seek to amend this complaint to set forth said true names and identities of those 21 through 30 inclusive when they have been ascertained. That's great. You can just fucking sue people in a lawsuit and say, we'll give you the name. We'll give you the name when we figure it out later down the road. 16, plaintiff is ignorant of the true, plaintiff is ignorant. That sentence should terminate right there. Plaintiff is ignorant of the true names and capacities of defendants, those 31 through 40 inclusive, and therefore sues these defendants by such fictitious names. Plaintiff is informed and believes, and thereon alleges, that each defendant so named was employed by defendant city at the time of the conduct alleged herein. Plaintiff alleges that each of defendants, those 31 through 40, were responsible for the training, supervision, and or conduct of the officers and or agents involved in the conduct alleged herein. Plaintiff alleges that each of defendants, those 31 through 40, were also responsible for and caused the acts and injuries alleged herein. Plaintiff will amend this complaint to state the names and capacities of those 31 through 40 inclusive when they have been ascertained. 3 years later, you don't know who's done what? That's fucking fucked up. Administrative prerequisites 17. Plaintiff is required to comply with the administrative procedures set forth in the Federal Tort Claims Act pursuant to 28 USC 2671 et sec. Plaintiff filed a claim against the United States Drug Enforcement Administration on October 31, 2022. The claim was rejected by operation of law on May 1, 2023. That's what the May 1st shit was all about. Tina had already filed a complaint, a claim against the DEA. That claim was rejected on May 1st, 2023. So they were going to coincide the new lawsuit with the rejection of the old lawsuit. But I got this funky feeling that the new lawsuit doesn't overcome the rejection of May 1, 2023. And that's why it waited so long and was only filed on the last possible day to file. This case is a fucking loser. Plaintiff therefore exhausted all administrative remedies pursuant to Title 28 of the United States Code, Section 2675A. Preliminary allegations. The United States of America is a public entity and is being sued under Title 28 USC 1346B for violations of Missouri state law and government code for the acts and omissions of defendants Gasparoni, Stewart, and Doe's 1 through 20, and each of them, who at the time they caused decedents and plaintiffs injuries and damages, were duly appointed qualified and acting officers employed and or agents of the United States Drug Enforcement Agency and acting within the course and scope of their employment or agency. 21. Oh my God, this is long as fuck. Hold on, I'm just getting my desktop a little better sorted out. Checking my StreamYards. Hey, Walter, Texas is with us. Walter, Texas says she is desperate and grieving, but there is usually a limit before it becomes dysfunctional grief. Walter, this grief is dysfunctional. She's bringing a fictitious and from what I know about the case, this is everything I've read so far is utter fucking bullshit. Caleb's at fault. Caleb was given a simple instruction: remain in the fucking vehicle. I mean, if I was high on meth and had a fucking handgun on me and a cop told me just sit in the fucking car, I would just sit in the fucking car. And I would get that goddamn gun off my fucking person. 21, the city of Springfield is a public entity and is being sued under Title 42 USC 1983 for violations of the 4th and 15 amendments of the United States Constitution, Missouri state law, and the government code for the acts and omissions of defendants Nucio and Doe's 21 through 40, and each of them who are at the time they caused decedents and plaintiffs' injuries and damages were duly appointed qualified acting officers, employees, and or agents of defendant's city. No one caused injury to Caleb other than the DEA agents. So why are you dragging the fucking city into that shit? The city didn't harm Caleb. 22, each of the defendants caused and is responsible for the unlawful conduct and resulting harm by inter alia, personally participating in the conduct or acting jointly and in concert with others who did so by authorizing, acquiescing, condoning, acting, admitting, or failing to take action to prevent the unlawful conduct by promulgating or failing to promulgate policies and procedures pursuant to which the unlawful conduct occurred, by failing and refusing to initiate and maintain proper and adequate policies, procedures, and protocols, and by ratifying and condoning the unlawful conduct performed by agents, officers, deputies, medical providers, and employees under their direction and control. The way this is worded, Tina, as a taxpayer, you should include yourself as a defendant and every other taxpayer in Missouri that you can prove paid tax and voted to elect the directing governing body of the municipality. They're paying for it. They're picking the leaders. Why don't you just include everyone in your fucking lawsuit, including yourself? You SovCit fucking wingnut. 23, whenever and wherever reference is made in this complaint to any act by defendants Gasparoni, Stewart, Nuccio, and Doe's 1 through 40, such allegations and references shall also be deemed to mean the acts and failures to act of each defendant, DOE officer, individually, jointly, or severally. Doe officer. Sorry, that must be one of the Does. These are the factual allegations. Let me get a little gulp of my coffee. Coffee from this point forward until the spring. It's a winter habit thing. I really enjoy it too. The coffees will have a spoonful of molasses in them. Oh, it's fucking awesome. It adds a nice undertone to the coffee. And if you're unaware of it, especially if you're diabetic, molasses has a high iron quantity in it. So you can get a lot of your daily intake of iron with just a spoonful or two once a day of molasses. And molasses has 2 of the key chemicals needed for the body to manufacture hemoglobin. Try a little molasses in your cup of coffee. You'll thank me. You'll like it. Paragraph 24, factual allegations. On November 2, 2020, at approximately 3:28 p.m. So this is in the afternoon, late afternoon, early evening, 3:28. Caleb's high on fucking meth already. Caleb's high on meth in the middle of the fucking day. That, my friends, is not a recreational user. That is a habit. 3:28 in the afternoon, and the fucking glass pipe is getting passed around. Smoke it up. On November 2, 2020, at approximately 3:28 p.m., decedent Caleb Slay was parked out front of his home in Springfield, Missouri, located at 1827 South Maryland Ave. Unbeknownst to Caleb, two unmarked DEA vehicles pulled up and parked in front of the house, where two DEA agents, Anthony Gasparoni and John Stewart, were surveilling the area. Now, how would Tina or Tina's lawyers know this when Tina and Tina's lawyers weren't there? The official police report would be where you would get that first paragraph of information from. And the two DEA agents did not pull up simultaneously. The first DEA agent pulled up, identified himself, and actually instructed Caleb to remain in his vehicle. The second officer appeared shortly, DEA agent, sorry. The second DEA agent appeared shortly after the first, who had already instructed Caleb to remain in his vehicle. So this unbeknownst shit is bullshit. The second agent asked Caleb where he was going. Caleb said, "I'm going into my fucking house." And then the officer ordered him to come back to the vehicle. As Caleb was coming back, the second DEA agent asked Caleb if he was armed, and Caleb responded in the positive that he was armed. So it's not unbeknownst. The first agent arrived, instructed Caleb to remain in his vehicle. At that point, Caleb knows the DEA is on scene. The second agent appeared afterward, when after Caleb had gotten in the car and then exited the car to walk toward the house, probably to ditch some shit that he didn't want the cops to know about, i.e. the fucking gun he had on him. That's when the second officer arrived. So you can't say that Caleb didn't know the first officer agent was there when he was communicating with the second agent, because the first agent had already talked to him. This lawsuit is, as Merb likes to say, these are statements of facts. This isn't a fact, in the fact that it's not a fucking true statement. Caleb began to get out of his car. Unbeknownst to Caleb, I'm going to backtrack a little bit here. Unbeknownst to Caleb, two unmarked DEA vehicles pulled up and parked in front of his house. That's bullshit. He knew the first one was there before the second one pulled up. He was actually taunting the second DEA agent, according to the police report. He was taunting the second DEA agent about being unprofessional because he had exited his vehicle and had not yet put his bulletproof vest on, which is not something that's easy to put on while seated in a vehicle. So Caleb knew exactly who he was fucking dealing with and exactly who was there. Unbeknownst to Caleb, two unmarked DEA vehicles pulled up and parked in front of his house, where two DEA agents, Anthony Gasparoni and John Stewart, were surveilling the area. Caleb began to get out of his car and walk up his driveway to the front door of his house when defendant Gasparoni, see, it's in the fucking police report. The initial interaction with the first DEA agent, this lawsuit is making it sound like Caleb had a surprise first encounter with the second DEA agent. That's completely fucking untrue. Tina's lawyers are fucking liars. Tina's lawyers are fucking liars. Whoever wrote this is a fucking liar. Whoever signed off on it is a liar too, signed off and advocates lying on legal fucking documents. And the omission of clear facts, what's stated in the police report, is a fucking lie. Caleb began to get out of his car and walk up his driveway to the front door of his house when defendant Gasparoni, wearing plain clothes and tactical vest, clearly marked DEA on the tactical vest, ordered Caleb to stop, to which Caleb complied. He complied when he was ordered to stop by the second DEA agent. He was out of compliance when he got out of the vehicle and started heading toward the house, not complying with the order of the first DEA agent. That's why the interaction, which is clearly stated in the police report, has been clearly omitted by the fucking lawyers. The lawyers are painting a fucking untrue picture. Caleb began to get out of his car, walk up his driveway to the front door of his house when defendant Gasparoni, wearing plain clothes and tactical vest, ordered Caleb to stop, to which Caleb complied. Caleb remained calm while speaking with defendant Gasparoni and informed defendant Gasparoni of his legal firearm. That is the stretch of the truth. The DEA agent asked the second DEA agent, when being informed by the first DEA agent that Caleb had been instructed to remain in the vehicle, the second DEA agent asked Caleb where he was going. The response was, to my fucking house. The DEA agent then ordered Caleb, to come back. Caleb was not complying with the orders of the first officer. He was not being compliant. He was not being, what's the wording here? Calm. It's not calm when you respond to the officer and say, I'm going to my fucking house. That's not a calm response. Nobody in their right mind would consider that a calm response. It's clearly stated in the fucking police report. Caleb then slowly extended both hands out in front of his body, showing defendant Gasparoni that he was not holding any weapon and did not pose any threat to defendant Gasparoni. This is Tina. This is the story Tina's been telling. This is not what's in the police report. This is not what's in the police report. Where the lawyers got this story from, Tina, this is clearly an attempt to bullshit people. Clearly. Caleb then slowly extended both his hands out in front of his body, showing defendant Gasparoni that he was not holding any weapon and did not pose any threat to defendant Gasparoni. Okay. So, according to this, Caleb is armed with a gun on his hip and has not yet informed the officers yet. According to the police report, before Gasparoni took hold of Caleb's wrist, Caleb had informed that the officer that he did have a weapon. Defendant Gasparoni took hold of Caleb's wrist, at which time defendant Stewart approached Caleb from behind without any warning. Defendant Stewart proceeded to forcibly grab Caleb, causing one of the defendant agents and Caleb to fall to the ground. As the defendant agent and Caleb were on the ground, Defendant Gasparoni deployed his taser against Caleb's neck. This was investigated by the police. There was no taser issued to either DEA agent, and the DEA agents don't carry tasers. There was no taser on the scene. On information and belief, the taser deployed successfully, causing Caleb to experience neuromuscular incapacitation and thereby was immobilized. Yet witnesses have testified, it's in the police report, that Caleb, standing over Gasparoni, twice made motion like he was reaching for the pistol on his hip and was going to draw it. That's why Agent Stewart shot Caleb. He was not tased. He was not immobilized. This is a whole new bunch of bullshit added 3 years after the fucking incident occurred. Then without any warning, 27. Then without any warning and from a mere few feet away, Defendant Gasparoni took out his firearm and fired at least 3 bullets at Caleb, striking Caleb in the head twice. On information and belief, Springfield police officers were dispatched to the scene after reports of shots fired. On further information and belief, Springfield Police Department Sergeant C. Nucio was one of the first officers on scene after the shooting. Defendant Nucio approached Caleb, who was not moving, bleeding from the head, and visibly severely injured. On further information and belief, Defendant Nucio determined that Caleb did not have a pulse and therefore did not require immediate medical attention. Tina's been saying the whole time that a faint pulse was found. Let's see what happens in the creative writing exposition of whatever fucking law firm wrote this horseshit document up. On information and belief, Defendant Nucio prevented emergency medical responders from immediately rendering aid and life-saving measures to Caleb. Dude couldn't find a pulse. You're saying it in your own report. Tina's story up to now has been there was a faint pulse. Now you're saying Nucio couldn't find a pulse and therefore denied medical attention. Preserving the scene, that's what he's supposed to do. There's no negligence in that. On further information and belief, several minutes later, emergency medical personnel were permitted to tend to Caleb, and a low pulse was found, contrary to Defendant Nucio's initial determination. Well, Nucio's only working with a finger on the fucking vein to find a pulse. The medics have other shit. Caleb succumbed to injuries and died in his front yard. You're going to have a tough time proving fucking negligence here. And Tina's story has always been that emergency medical personnel were not permitted to tend to Caleb. And Tina's been telling a story the whole time that the medical professionals were not allowed to administer aid to her son, that the police wouldn't even let them near him. Story changes now. Wow. This is a fucking creative writing piece. This is completely contrary to the story that Tina's been telling for 3 fucking years. Plaintiff is informed and believes, and thereon alleges, that decedent did not know and reasonably could not know by way of actual or constructive notice that defendants Gasparoni and Stewart were agents with United States Drug Enforcement Administration. The police report, the police report accounts for Caleb having mocked the second DEA agent as being unprofessional for still having to put on his bulletproof vest, which is clearly marked with DEA on it, prior to getting out of his vehicle. You're going to have a tough time with that one. On information and belief, defendants Gasparoni and Stewart never informed, represented, or otherwise indicated to decedent of their official capacity as DEA agents during the encounter. On further information and belief, defendants Gasparoni and Stewart presented themselves in a manner that was consistent with actions of local law enforcement officers and thereby assumed roles of being state actors. On further information and belief, so they're confirming that other people, other witnesses, probably Casey Ray and the dude that was there with Caleb, that's where the information that's on the police report comes from. It comes from the 2 DEA agents, and it comes from the 2 on-scene witnesses, Casey Ray and the friend of Caleb who was there. There's no indication in the police investigation report that those 2 individuals said that these guys just bum rushed us. We never knew they were law enforcement. There's none of that in the police report. Good luck on that one, man. Plaintiff is informed and believe, and thereon alleges, that defendant Gasparoni proceeded to use excessive and deadly force against decedent without warning and without provocation, and to assault and batter decedent through acts that include, but are not limited to, unjustifiably tasering decedent and discharging 3 lethal rounds from a department-issued firearm at decedent's head, striking him twice. He couldn't have discharged 3 lethal rounds if only 2 of the rounds struck him. Even though decedent posed no credible threat to any person, defendant posed no credible threat. He's high on fucking meth. He's not following a simple police or a simple lawful order. He's high on meth. He's not following a simple lawful order. Sit in the vehicle. Wait till this shit is over. That was his order. That's all he had to do. He's high on meth. No credible threat. He's high on meth and in possession of a fucking handgun. And he's located at the scene of a drug deal where DEA agents are surveilling a drug dealer. Yeah, you're not a credible threat. You're nothing but a fucking threat, Caleb. You're not a homeowner in his backyard barbecuing in a Merb-style Hawaiian fucking shirt, drinking a beer. You're in a car in the front of the house, armed with a gun, meeting a drug dealer high on methamphetamine. You're a fucking, you're a danger and a menace to society. Fuck me. Everybody's a fucking innocent victim. Defendants Gasparoni, Stewart, or any other agent or officer, defendant Gasparoni disregarded his training, improperly assessed the situation, and ignored agency policy. Jesus Christ, man. Cut and paste. Defendant Gasparoni's use of lethal force against the decedent was excessive under the circumstances and thereby unconstitutional. It's excessive force to shoot a man. The taser shit is all made up. There never was a fucking taser on scene. So it's excessive to use lethal force against a meth user who's high on meth, who's in the presence of a meth drug dealer, who's probably meeting with a different meth user to do a meth drug sale. This Caleb Slay is high on meth, armed with a pistol, and unable to follow a simple order, stay in the vehicle, which then results in Caleb Slay getting into a physical altercation with the police, with the DEA agents who were going to cuff him because he had announced that he had a pistol on him. At that point in time, you're getting cuffed. It's stupid to start fucking resisting or to do anything that would indicate that you're reaching for and or might pull said weapon. Dude, we've watched videos where people have been shot for saying, the officer says, is there a weapon in the vehicle? And the driver says, yes, there is. It's in between the seats right here. And then reaches for the fucking gun. And the officer says, don't do it, don't do it, don't reach for it. And they keep reaching for it, and bang, they get fucking shot. Caleb, standing over Officer Gasparoni's partner, Stewart, and twice made motion like he was going to pull the pistol. He got himself shot. There's nothing excessive there. In fact, that's pretty much the way that situation should have gone down. So, hey, kids out there listening, try not to use meth. Don't use meth. If you do use meth, don't carry a fucking handgun around with you. Don't. That's the takeaway here. If you're going to use meth, don't have a handgun on you. If you're going to use meth, don't be in the car in the street in front of your house waiting for a meth dealer to drive up. All this shit could have easily been avoided if Caleb had just sat in the fucking car. Plaintiff is informed and believes and thereon alleges that upon arriving at decedent's residence in Springfield, Missouri, defendant Gasparoni, while acting under the color of state law and in the course and scope of his employment with the defendant, U.S. and the United States Drug Enforcement Administration, negligently assessed the circumstances presented to him when defendant DEA agents contacted decedent. At no time during the encounter with decedent did decedent pose any reasonable or credible threat of violence to defendants Gasparoni, Stewart, or any other agent or officer. He got into a physical altercation with him. He's on meth. He's got a pistol. The agents know it. And then Caleb starts running at the fucking mouth. I'm going into my fucking house. And then physically gets into a struggle with the first DEA agent who attempted to put cuffs on him. At no time during the encounter with decedent did decedent pose any reasonable or credible threat of violence to defendants Gasparoni, Stewart, or any other agent or officer, nor did he do anything to justify the use of deadly force inflicted against him. If you get into a physical scuffle while armed and the agents know you're armed, you're going to get yourself fucking shot, dude. You're going to get yourself shot. That's the result of behaving that way. So the whole idea that Caleb didn't do anything that justified the use of deadly force. You're high on meth, you're armed, and you're in a physical altercation with the police. Bang, bang. Decedent was parked in front of his home and started walking up his driveway when defendants Gasparoni and Stewart contacted him. That's bullshit. Stewart had already instructed, I believe it was Stewart that was first on the scene. I might be wrong about that. The first agent on the scene instructed Caleb to stay in the car. So he wasn't approached by both simultaneously. Decedent had no weapons in his hands. Doesn't fucking matter. He had a pistol in a holster on his hip and demonstrated this by extending both hands out in front of his body for defendant DEA agents to observe. And the timeless defendant and the time at the time, defendants Gasparoni and Stewart grabbed decedent, and defendant Gasparoni tasered, and then 3 lethal rounds from close range at decedent. One of the 3 couldn't have been lethal because, according to your own statements, whoever wrote this, the first round, one of the 3 rounds didn't strike. A round that doesn't strike the target is not a lethal round. It's only lethal if it hits a fucking person standing by or passing by. There is no taser on the scene. I don't know why they're harping on the fucking taser thing. That's already been disproved and reported on. This report is acting like, contrary to the police report, this account in the lawsuit is complete fucking bullshit. It's trying to make it sound like Gasparoni and Stewart jumped, just aggressively approached Caleb and for no apparent reason, started that they're the ones that started to be, physically aggressive. Wow, it's amazing shit. Decedent had no weapons in his hand and demonstrated this by extending both hands out in front of his body for the defendant DEA agents to observe. At the time, defendants Gasparoni and Stewart grabbed decedent, and defendant Gasparoni tasered, and then 3 lethal rounds from close range at decedent, striking decedent's head twice and killing him. Such force exercised against decedent was excessive, unnecessary, and therefore unlawful. It seems excessive and unnecessary until you factor in the fact that the motherfucker was high on meth, and an amount of meth that's indicative of violent behavior. An amount of meth in Caleb's bloodstream that can be shown through experience with other data collected by experience with other meth users, that the level of meth in Caleb's system is consistent with meth users that become violent in their behavior. So, these are DEA agents. I knew a guy in Winder who, he was a police officer. The way I do work, I'm often coming home. I have been for the last 12 or so years, coming home at, early morning hours before sunrise, 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning. It's a time when drunks are on the road. In fact, driving home, because at the moment I have a 50-minute ride. Driving home, I encounter drunks on the road all the fucking time. A lot. People who can't maintain fucking lane. this guy, police officer, they called him the human DUI because I got to know the guy. We were actually decent friends because I used to stop at a Waffle House and get coffee and something to eat on the way home from work. So these guys were in a town near where I was, and I'd run into them all the time. We actually had personal friends in common, couple girls that our group overlapped. So I would see this guy at the Waffle House, and once or twice we were actually sitting. I sat and ate because they're cops. I would buy them their fucking meal every once in a while. We'd be sitting in the Waffle House, and somebody would get up who had been sitting there, would get up, pay their tab, get up, leave. And this police officer would get on his mic and he would wait till the person pulled out of the Waffle House parking lot and went left or right. And he would get on his mic and he would radio to there was obviously somebody doing speed check or DUI on the main drag through town. And, depending left or right, he would call the appropriate officer and he'd be like, hey, you got a, red Mustang coming at you. Guarantee the guy blows, and he would give a number. 20 minutes, a half an hour later, he'd get a call back on his fucking radio, and they'd be like, you were off by a tenth. You were off by a tenth. So the officer I was hanging with, having breakfast with, radioed and said, oh, you got a red Mustang coming at you. It's going to blow a 1-2. And then the guy wound up blowing a 1-1. They would chide him and be like, you're slipping, dude. You were off by a tenth. So these guys who have experience with this stuff, they can physically read people. Like this one officer had granted, it's an extraordinary talent to be as accurate as he was, but he had dealt with enough drunk drivers that by your physical behavior, by your speech, by your mannerisms, he could tell where you were on the blood alcohol content measure. These DEA agents, you can't say what's threatening or not threatening to them because they've been through shit you haven't been through, and they may have the ability to read things that you're just completely unaware of, oblivious to. I don't see where Gasparoni or Stewart's actions, based on the information in the police investigation, were in any way excessive or unnecessary. Paragraph 33, decedent made no aggressive movements, no furtive gestures, and no physical movements which would suggest to a reasonable DEA agent that he had the will or the ability to inflict substantial bodily harm against any individual at the time DEA agents encountered him. He was high on fucking meth. He was high on meth, and he was high at a range parts per million in the bloodstream that does indicate a high probability of violent behavior. These are DEA agents. They may have been able to read through his body language, his mannerisms, his inability to sit still, his I'm going to my fucking house response, all that shit. How would the lawyers know that Caleb made no aggressive movements, no furtive gestures, and no physical movements? They weren't there. And they're obviously not working from the information that's on the police investigation. So they're either making this up or they're relying on the testimony of someone who did not participate in the police investigation, giving information. Why were individuals that saw this happen and are obviously, according to Tina Slay, sympathetic toward Tina Slay and not the DEA agents? Why is it 3 years and they haven't said a fucking word? Defendants Gasparoni and Stewart were never faced with any circumstances during the initial encounter with decedent which would have led a reasonable DEA agent to believe that decedent posed the risk of death or serious bodily injury to any person at the time lethal force was used. Holy fuck, Tina, you're going to lose this fucking case. It's right in the police investigation. There was a physical altercation between Caleb and one of the DEA agents. In that physical altercation, Caleb maintained his footing. The other DEA agent went down to the ground. Okay. Caleb, twice standing over the DEA agent, motioned as though he were going to pull his pistol. That's life-threatening. That's life-threatening. The actions of the other DEA agent are completely fucking justifiable. This is a loser fucking case, and Tina is looking for shut up and go the fuck away money. 34. Moreover, it was clear that after being shot in the head, decedent had an obvious need for emergency medical intervention and immediate rendering of life-saving measures. Nonetheless, defendant Nucio arrived on scene and without consulting with emergency medical responders. He's there before the medical responders. There's shots fired. The Springfield officer has to fucking clear the scene before he allows the medical personnel to come in. And the medical personnel will not fucking come in 99.9% of the time. You always have one jerk off who thinks he's a fucking cowboy. 99.9% no, not to go in until the scene's cleared because they could be physically harmed. They carry drugs. This is a drug thing. They could be robbed of the fucking drugs they have. They're not going in. They're not going in until it's clear. Moreover, it was clear after being shot in the head, decedent had an obvious need for emergency medical intervention and immediate rendering of life-saving measures. Nonetheless, defendant Nucio arrived on scene and without consulting with emergency medical responders, defendant Nucio improperly assessed the situation and severity of decedent's injuries and negligently determined that decedent did not have a pulse and therefore did not require life-saving measures. You know, that the fact that he couldn't find a pulse and half the back of his fucking head is no longer existent. I think any reasonable man in that situation is not going to be found negligent in the assessment that assistance is of no value at this point in time. Consequently, decedent was left unattended to and without medical attention for several minutes before emergency medical responders were permitted to evaluate decedent and determined decedent still had a low pulse, but the severity of his injuries were not survivable. How did he make a wrong fucking choice? How is the officer negligent when the EMS people are verifying and validating that his injuries were not survivable? Tina, this is why they didn't rush him around the corner to the hospital. Waste of time, waste of resources will corrupt the scene of the crime. See, they're definitely saving the guy's life, saving Caleb's life is the highest fucking priority. Secondary priority to that is the preservation of the crime scene, to not allow it to be disturbed, ransacked, just run amok over by individuals who are focusing on saving a life instead of preserving a crime scene. Those same EMS individuals, Tina, which your lawyer is now admitting, came to the conclusion also that Caleb's wounds were not survivable. You've been bitching about negligence for 3 fucking years, Tina. The EMS crew, the first police officer, couldn't find a pulse and saw Caleb's fucking head. He said, this is done. He's only got his fingertips to find a pulse. Half of Caleb's fucking head is missing, Tina. Can't save him. So the priority switches to the preservation of the crime scene. The EMS personnel, when they were allowed to examine Caleb, validated the conclusion of Officer Nucio and said, quote, the fucking lawsuit. I'm quoting the fucking lawsuit. Decedent still had a low pulse, but the severity of his injuries were not survivable. Where's the negligence? If all the rational people, the first responders, trained to maintain their composure and assess in these situations, the first police officer is there to clear the scene, make sure there's no fucking weapons, blah, blah, blah. The EMS people can't get hurt, any shit like that. He gets in, does his job. He comes to the conclusion, I can't find a fucking pulse. All right. Can't find a pulse means you're fucking dead, right? That 90% of the people, that's what it fucking means. Half your head's fucking blown off. I can't find a pulse. The reasonable conclusion here is this isn't a survivable event. Move on to the next fucking phase of the thing. The EMS are allowed. The EMS find a fucking low pulse. Oh my God, that's not good. It's not good for the officer, except for the simple fact that they saw Caleb's head too, and they came to the conclusion that the wounds, the injuries are not survivable. Everybody's your own fucking lawsuit is validating the actions of the Springfield, Missouri Police Department. Where's the fucking negligence on the officer's part from Springfield Police if the EMS people come to the exact same conclusion he came to? These injuries can't be survived. The information the officer had, the Springfield Police Department officer had, was visibly see the condition of Caleb's head and check for a pulse. He can't find a pulse. He sees the condition of Caleb's head. He comes to the conclusion this isn't survivable. The EMS come even later. Valuable time has gone by. The EMS comes even later. They find a pulse. But then they say, even with the pulse that the sergeant from the Springfield Police Department couldn't find, even with this low pulse, the injuries are not survivable. These are EMS medical professionals. Where's the fucking negligence on the part of the Springfield, Missouri Police Department? This case fucking blows. It's a case of fucking bullshit, creative writing for effect. These lawyers have no intent to ever fucking go into court with this case. It's a fucking loser. They're doing what they're doing to paint a horrific picture and indicate that they're willing to drag out a fucking expensive case, and they're looking for shut up and go away money. So this highfalutin attorney that Tina hired flies out to Missouri one time. First class ticket costs him maybe $5,000. And then he's got what, a $500, let's say $500 for the hotel room, because he's a fucking celebrity lawyer. He's not staying at the fucking Holiday Inn last night. So he lawyer hopes I'll get $1 million on a shut up and go away. Tina gets 750,000. I get a third, 33%. I get a third of Tina's shut up and go away money, and I get to take my expenses out of Tina's shut up and go away money. That's my first class airline ticket, my hotel stay, all that shit. The lawyer ain't looking to do shit for Tina. The lawyer's looking to fucking get his cash back that he fucking outlaid. Look at this right here. Decedent still had a low pulse, but the severity of his injuries were not survivable. How the fuck can you accuse the Missouri Springfield sergeant or the Springfield, Missouri police sergeant as being negligent when the EMS came to the same fucking conclusion he did? 35, after a significant and appreciable period of time had passed following the shooting, decedent died as the direct and proximate result of gunshot wounds inflicted by defendant Gasparoni and the subsequent denial of medical care by defendants Gasparoni, Stewart, and Nucio. How could the denial of medical care factor in at all when the EMS came to the conclusion that even with a low pulse, holy shit, half his head is missing, unsurvivable? Any fucking person with a rational train of thought, choo-choo, Tina, would come to the same conclusion. There's no negligence on the Springfield, Missouri police officer's part. None whatsoever. There's a lot of negligence on Tina's part. Tina neglected to do what a mother should do and raise a son that behaved appropriately in society and wasn't high on fucking methamphetamine at 3:30 in the afternoon. Paragraph 36, at all material times, the actions and omissions of each defendant were conscience shocking, reckless, and deliberately indifferent to decedents' and plaintiffs' rights, and in the alternative, negligent and objectively reasonable. What's negligent about not giving medical attention to an individual who suffered wounds that are unsurvivable? There's no negligence there. In fact, he made the right call. He didn't waste valuable fucking resources and taxpayer money on a fucking loser meth head. 37, because I think if you polled the average taxpayer and you gave them a scenario where police shoot a meth addict armed with a gun in the head and didn't give them medical attention, I think 9 out of 10 taxpayers would actually be like, great, we didn't have to fucking waste money on that douchebag. 37, plaintiff also suffered extreme physiological distress and injury as a result of this ordeal. So Tina should get a fatter paycheck. Tina should get a fatter paycheck because Caleb suffered the agonizing results of his own actions, high on meth at 3:30 in the afternoon on a weekday with a gun on his side. Yeah, Tina really suffered. Plaintiff suffered and still suffers from symptoms including, but not limited to, fear, trauma, anxiety, stress, depression, humiliation, and emotional distress as a result of the incident. Holy fuck. Tina literally is trying to become a victim here. Plaintiff also suffered extreme physiological distress and injury as a result of this ordeal. She wasn't even fucking there. She could have suffered these things as a result of being informed of this ordeal, being informed about it. She could have suffered these things, but she didn't suffer these things because of it. She wasn't fucking there. Plaintiff suffered and still suffers from symptoms including, but not limited to, fear. She had fear before that. Trauma. She's been through a divorce. She's already had trauma. Anxiety. If I can get some of Blecka's fucking pain anxiety medication. Stress, depression, humiliation. Humiliation. Like the humiliation you heap on fucking Chili because Chili didn't get you the celebrity you wanted. So you found if you heap humiliation on Chili, you can get your own celebrity. And anyone else who told the fucking truth, Tina. You've mocked every individual that's told the fucking truth while you manufacture these fucking lies, which are now in a fucking lawsuit in a legal document. Depression, humiliation, and emotional distress as a result of the incident. Fucking. Hi, my name is Tina. I'm a perpetual victim. I'm talking to you on my cell phone from my bathtub. Wouch. Moreover, 38. During the incident, defendants Gasparoni, Stewart, and Does 1 through 11, inclusive, worked together as a group to back each other up, provide tactical approval for the incident, and support, assist, and encourage one another's actions. Sounds like teamwork. Sounds like teamwork. Tina will now take a quality functioning team of first response individuals and paint them as conspirators in a crime against her son, the 3:30 in the afternoon, high on meth, handgun on his side, meeting with a drug dealer. Good luck with that one. Moreover, each of the defendant DEA agents failed to intervene or prevent harm when his or her colleagues were depriving decedent of his constitutional rights, as stated in this complaint. What constitutional? The 4th and the 14th? No one searched Caleb. They asked him if he had a gun. He said, yeah. The 4th and 14th, they told him to stay in the fucking vehicle. It's a lawful order. They're conducting an investigation. All Caleb had to do was stay in the fucking vehicle. You don't have a right to disobey the police officers when they give you a lawful order. They're conducting an investigation. You're a meth user, Caleb. Caleb's a meth user. So Caleb knows Casey Ray is a meth dealer. He knows the guy. Plaintiff is informed and believes, and thereon alleges, that defendants violated standard federal agent practices and training during the performance of their duties as United States Drug Enforcement Administration agents. Which ones? Which ones? Which practices and training did they fail to perform? Which ones did they violate? You're not, you're just throwing out a general accusation. You're not really. Wow. 41. Plaintiff is informed and believes, and thereon alleges, that defendants Gasparoni, Stewart, and Nucio failed to maintain situational awareness and improperly assess the circumstances presented. On information and belief, defendant Gasparoni failed to consider the dangers of his actions when he tasered decedent in the neck and then fired several bullets from close range at decedent's head without any warning. The whole taser thing is fucking made up. It never happened. It was investigated in the police report. There was no taser on scene. There were never any indications that there were taser marks on Caleb. The DEA doesn't get issued fucking tasers, dipshit. On further information and belief, defendant Nucio failed to consider the dangers of his actions and omissions when he prevented emergency medical responders from rendering life-saving measures to decedent after decedent was shot. Sergeant Nucio came to the conclusion, because he couldn't find a pulse, that medical attention was unnecessary. The gentleman was dead. When the EMS did check the body, they found a faint pulse, but concluded the same as Nucio that the injuries were not survivable. Bye-bye. There's no negligence there. Two individual parties came to the same conclusion. You're going to have a difficult time proving negligence. That's why you had to do the old they're backing each other up thing, because the only way for you to get anything, and it will never work, is for you to paint a conspiracy cover-up theory, which isn't going to fucking happen. And Tina, after 2 years of fucking fable spinning on YouTube, you are a known, documented, demonstrable fucking liar. You went around for a year saying that the DEA agent shot your fucking son up with methamphetamine, when the reality is your son trafficked with meth users, trafficked with a meth dealer, and himself was a meth user. Nightclub security meth user. The actions and omissions of defendants U.S., defendant City, defendants Gasparoni, Stewart, Nucio, and Doe's 1 through 40 inclusive were objectively unreasonable under the circumstances. So you have to do 40 John Doe's because you need the idea of 40 other people to create this needable awareness of a background conspiracy. That's the only fucking chance this case has in court, is if you can convince the jury that there's a conspiratorial cover-up. Holy fuck, Tina. You are one paranoid motherfucker. The actions and omissions of defendant U.S., defendant City, and defendants Gasparoni, Stewart, Nucio, and Doe's 1 through 40 inclusive were objectively unreasonable. Under the circumstances, without legal justification or other legal right done under color of law, within the course and scope of their employment as federal agents, law enforcement officers, detectives, and or public officials, and pursuant to unconstitutional customs policies and procedures of defendant U.S., defendant City, and or other jurisdictions. Objectively unreasonable. You don't say which actions were objectively unreasonable. You don't say which actions or which omissions. So again, you're trying to create the idea that something wrong happened. You're not specifically saying what the wrong was. Well, I don't know. I really don't understand where Caleb's civil rights were infringed upon. 43, plaintiff is informed and believes and thereon alleges that defendant U.S., defendant city, does 11 through 20, does 31 through 40, inclusive, breached their duty of care to the public in that they have failed to discipline defendants Gasparoni, Stewart, Nucio. They left out does 20 through 30. Why did they leave out? They left out, so they named does 11 through 20, inclusive of the 11th and the 20th, and does 30 through 40. Where are does 20 through 30? Huh. Your lawyers suck. These have breached their duty of care to the public in that they have failed to discipline defendants Gasparoni, Stewart, Nucio, does 1 through 10, inclusive, and does 21 through 30, inclusive. Their failure to discipline defendants Gasparoni, Stewart, Nucio, does 1 through 10, inclusive, does 21 through 30, they're finally named, inclusive, demonstrates the existence of an entrenched culture, policy, and or practice of promoting, tolerating, and or ratifying with deliberate indifference the making of improper detentions and arrests, the use of excessive force, and the failure to treat the serious medical needs of citizens of the state of Missouri, including citizens of Greene County. The Springfield, Missouri Police Department investigated this whole ordeal and found no wrongdoing. So it's exactly what I said. They now have to paint a picture that there's a cover-up conspiracy going on. If the Springfield, Missouri Police Department investigated and found no wrongdoing on the part of Gasparoni and Stewart and Sergeant Nucio, then why would disciplinary action be taken? What is this even about? This is an attempt to paint the idea that there's a conspiracy going on. This is a shitty fucking case. It's a shitty case. You have to prove a conspiracy. In order for Tina to win this case, she has to prove a conspiracy. Plaintiff is informed and believes and thereon alleges that members of the United States Drug Enforcement Administration and City of Springfield Police Department, including but not limited to defendants Gasparoni, Stewart, and does 1 through 10, inclusive, and defendants Nucio and does 21 through 30, inclusive, and or each of them have individually and or while acting in concert conspiracy with one another, engaged in a repeated pattern of and practice of using excessive, arbitrary, and or unreasonable force against individuals and failure to treat the serious medical needs of citizens, including but not limited to the decedent. Arbitrary? Your son's high on fucking meth with a pistol on him in a situation where DEA agents, not local cops, the fucking DEA agents are investigating the dude who rolled up to your son's house to meet the friend that your son is with, a meth dealer meeting a meth user while your son is high on meth, armed with a pistol. The fuck are you not seeing, Tina? Plaintiff is informed and believes and thereon alleges that the United States Drug Enforcement Agency and City of Springfield Police Department knew or had reason to know by way of actual or constructive notice of the aforementioned policy, culture, pattern, and or practice, and the complained of conduct and resultant injuries, violations on information and belief defendant U.S. and defendant city failed to take any action to address the repeated patterns of inappropriate conduct demonstrated by defendants Gasparoni, Stewart, and Doe's 1 through 10 inclusive, and defendants Nucio and Doe's 21 through 30 inclusive. Such failure not only demonstrates defendants' complete disregard for rights, safety, and welfare of the citizens of Greene County, but it also demonstrates defendants' U.S. and defendant cities' complacency and ratification of their conduct. Springfield, Missouri, the city, investigated the situation. They found no wrongdoing. You're saying they didn't take disciplinary action and therefore they're somehow at fault. Why would they discipline individuals that they investigated and came to the conclusion that those individuals did nothing wrong? What Tina can't deal with here is that Caleb was a meth user to the point where he was high on meth at 3:30 in the fucking afternoon. He was high on meth at 3:30 in the afternoon and found him in a situation right in front of his own home where the DEA were investigating associates of his, other meth users and meth dealers. I mean, all the shit you guys throw on fucking Chili DeCastro for the GHB shit, Caleb's locked in with meth users and meth dealers. Caleb's security at a fucking club. I'm telling you, I work the fucking club scene. I know how the fucking club scene works. And the way you get the meth inside the fucking club to sell it is through a fucking security guy. Caleb's a club security guy who happens also to be a meth user who knows a meth dealer, who's friends with another meth user. Holy shit! Tina, you're fucked. The conspiracy is your fucking son and Casey Ray, who never got caught for it, but were moving fucking drugs through Caleb's place of employment. And Caleb was going to go switch his major at school for criminal justice so he could go and clean up the Springfield, Missouri Police Department, Serpico style, while he's a penny ante fucking drug slinger at a fucking local club associated with a meth dealer. And apparently, coincidental, the friend that was at Caleb's house was a meth user too. It sounds like most of the people Caleb knew were involved with fucking meth, and this altercation with the DEA was a matter of tick-tock time in the happening. At all material times, the actions and omissions of each defendant were conscience shocking, reckless, and deliberately indifferent to plaintiff and decedent's rights, and in the alternative, negligent and objectionably unreasonable and thereby unlawful. Hey, look, man. Caleb is a meth user high at 3:30 in the afternoon. Caleb is hanging out with another meth user who's hanging out at Caleb. This is the shitty shit that meth users do to each other. Caleb's meth user friend is hanging out with Caleb and instructed the dealer to show up at Caleb's house where Caleb's friend would make the drug purchase, because Caleb's meth friend would rather have the drug dealer show up at Caleb's house than at his own house. You get it? Because all these guys that use, and every fucking guy that deals drugs knows he's being watched. All of them do. All of them behave that way. That's why you have your meth dealer buddy meet you at your friend's house and not at your own house. Caleb had some really good friends there, Tina. Really good friends. Damages. As a consequence of defendant's DEA agents' violations of decedents and plaintiffs' rights, Tina, what fucking rights did you have? Under the Fourth Amendment, as permitted under Bivens v. 6 Unknown Named Agents, 403 U.S. 388, 1971, and state rights under the Federal Tort Claims Act, 28 U.S.C. 2671, plaintiff was physically, mentally, this is Tina we're talking about. Caleb is referred to as the decedent. Plaintiff. Tina was physically injured. Physically, mentally, emotionally, and financially injured and damaged as a proximate result of defendant's wrongful conduct and decedent's wrongful death, including but not limited to plaintiff's loss of familial relations with the loss of decedent's society. How a single person does not offer you society, comfort, protection, companionship, love, affection, solace, and moral support, and financial support. Got to add that financial support in. Caleb was paying Tina's bills, really? 48, as a consequence of Tina's husband should be informed of that. 48, as a consequence of defendant city officers' violation of descendants and plaintiffs' federal civil rights under 42 U.S.C. 1983 and the 4th and 14th Amendments, and plaintiff was physically, mentally, emotionally, and financially injured and damaged as a proximate result of defendant's wrongful conduct and decedent's wrongful death. His death was not wrongful. He was high on meth, and he got into a physical altercation with federal agents while he was armed with a pistol. All he had to do was stay in the fucking car. None of this shit would have happened. The negligence is on Caleb's part. And if you want to really get into the core of the fucking negligence, it's big fat mom, Tina Slay, Tub Time with Tina. It's Tina Slay's SovCit anti-authoritarian attitude that she fucking educated her son in. Dumb fuck. Decedent's wrongful death, including but not limited to plaintiff's loss of familial relations with the loss of decedent's society, comfort, protection, championship, love, affection, solace, and moral support and financial support. And hence, it's a colloquial statement in this country, just say no to drugs. Your son was the one that was using the fucking drugs, Tina. 49, plaintiff seeks both survival and wrongful death damages pursuant to Missouri's revised statute 537.080 for the violation of both decedent's and plaintiff's rights. Tina is making this about fucking Tina. Decedent, both, violation of both decedent's and plaintiff's rights, and plaintiff. Tina has managed to make herself a victim here. Additionally, plaintiff is entitled to the reasonable value of funeral and burial expenses pursuant to Missouri Rev Stat 537.080, a revised stat, and loss of financial support. Tina's son was 25 years old, in college, worked as security at a nightclub, lived in a separate residence than Tina. Thank you for supplying all those facts, Tina. I love you. What claim could you possibly have that Caleb financially supported you? Now you're going to embarrass your current husband, make him look like a piece of shit, and say that your eldest son had to financially support you. The husband you're married to wasn't doing it. Wow, man. You fucking throw anybody under the bus. 50. Plaintiff is further entitled to recover damages incurred by decedent before he died as a result of being deprived without due process of his rights to life. What the fuck? You're going to put a fucking price tag on that too, Tina? See, you don't want to name a fucking number in here. You don't want to name a number in here. So you're clinging on to vacuous things like you're entitled to all the money Caleb would have been entitled to if he hadn't died when he died. He wasn't entitled to anything. You going to pay his fucking bills too, Tina? Because that's all he fucking had. You going to pay the debt to the meth man, Tina? Because your son died owing the meth guy money. Guaranteed. Plaintiff is further entitled to recover damages incurred by decedent before he died as a result of being deprived without due process of his right to life. He was high. He got in a fight with the fucking DEA agents, high and armed with a gun. Good luck. Into any penalties or punitive damages to which decedent would have been entitled to recover had he lived, including damages incurred by decedent consisting of pain and suffering he endured as a result of the violation of his civil rights. Caleb's civil rights weren't fucking violated. Caleb failed to follow a legal directive, stay in the car. That was the beginning of Caleb's fucking problems. Caleb violated a lawful order by a government agent. The problems started for Caleb after he refused to comply with a very simple, very lawful order: sit in the car. Plaintiff found it necessary to engage the services of private counsel to vindicate hers and decedent's right under the law. What fucking right, Tina? What right of yours was violated? You're so full of shit. Plaintiff is therefore entitled to an award of attorney's fees and or costs pursuant to statutes in the event that they are the prevailing party. That's not fucking happening. In the event that they are the prevailing party in this action under 42 USC 1983 and 1988, plaintiffs are also entitled to punitive damages. I fell down the stairs and my shoes came off. Punitive damages. Plaintiffs are also entitled to punitive damages under 42 USC 1983 and 1988. You already said that. You said the same fucking. Plaintiff is therefore entitled to an award of attorney's fees and or blah, blah, blah in the event they are the prevailing party in action under 42 USC. Plaintiffs are also entitled to punitive damages. How much of this fucking shit is left? Oh my God, there's a lot left here. Tina's a gold digger. Holy fucking gold digger, Tina. Wow. 840. Where's Nancy? Who's Nancy? Give me one in the chat if you want to continue on with this. We're down to 27 viewers. We have two choices. I can continue on with this and read it through, which we're already 3 hours in, or tomorrow I can take a little peek at I can give you a synopsis style summary. So one in the chat. True Blood wants to keep reading on. Oh, Wally is live. It is kind of boring, isn't it, there, Rebel? Yeah, let's we'll head over and check out Wally, and I'll give a little recap. This Tina Slay lawsuit is just fucking stupid. I'll do a synopsis on the remaining half of it in the coming days. It is Dearmid, if you're there, pop a link for anybody who's left in the chat on the Wally thing. I'm going to take us out with I brought us in with a petty, and I'll bring us out with a Wally with another petty, and we'll all head over to see Wally. Catch you at Wally's.
I'm passing sleeping cities, fading by degrees, not believing all I see to be so. I'm flying over backyards, country homes and ranches, watching life between the branches below. And it's hard to say who you are these days, but you run on anyway, don't you, baby? You keep running for another place to find that saving grace. I'm moving on alone, over ground that no one owns, past statues that atone for my sins. There's a guard on every door, and a drink on every floor, overflowing with 1,000 amens. And it's hard to say who you are these days, but you run on anyway, don't you, baby? You keep running for another place to find that saving grace, don't you, baby? The carpet of your father's two-room mansion, no headroom for expansion no more. And there's a corner of the floor they're telling you is yours. You're confident but not really sure, and it's hard to say who you are these days, but you run on anyway, don't you, baby? You keep running for another place to find that saving grace, don't you, baby? You keep running for another place to find that saving grace, don't you, baby?
We're off to see the Wally, the wonderful Wally of Oz.